and gentlemen, hello and welcome to what may very well be the most hotly anticipated piece of content in the history of the Better League, the Madden 20 team reveal, Madden 21, I've already messed up, team reveal. I am joined by the content god himself, CMass. Sir, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, and I've already got a sub. Cody with the young song with the sub. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and silent real quick. Appreciate that, Cody. No singing. This is a very serious show today. Please still sub, but I will not sing unless I get maybe like 5 or so. Anyways, I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, if you get a team you like, sub. If you get a team you don't like, sub anyway. It's all good. And CMass, I have to say, I appreciate all the content you've brought to the league. I appreciate that you're hosting this. The visuals are beautiful once again, but there really is something missing here. Like, I miss Cody, man. Like, Cody and I did this last time, and I have to say, like, you're great at this, but man, I miss Cody. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, for fun's sake, I'll do what a Cody intro would be, I guess.
For sure.
Hey guys, it's me, Cody, and this is gonna be a crazy team reveal. I'm so excited to have you.
Yo, boys, I could not miss this show, okay? Your boy is here, Cody Youngson's here, but it's live on CMass's channel. Let's get it going.
Welcome.
Y'all thought Cody would miss this. He wouldn't miss this for the world, man. Welcome back, Cody. It's great to have you.
It is incredible to be here. I couldn't miss this. I couldn't miss it for the world. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped to be here.
And so here's what the show is going to break. I'll do a little breakdown for you. Just so you know, I and Connor obviously know which team is who, what division and everything like that. Because we have the list, we put it together. Cody, he don't know. Okay, so he's going to be just like y'all, where he's going to be, everything that comes up is going to be the first time he sees it. So that's going to be something that I'm really looking forward to. People are saying that our audio is low. Everybody but Cody's audio is low. I think it's just because Cody was screaming. But turn your volumes up, guys. There's no other background or anything like that.
Yes,
so you have volume controls. Actually, my mic is all the way up, and their mics are all the way up. So just turn your shit up.
To CMass's point, obviously, most of you started to send me your list, but once, I handed everything off to Connor and CMass, so I know nothing like the rest of you, and so other than CMass and Connor, so you're gonna be getting some fresh, off-the-cuff comments from myself, which I'm excited about too. I don't know who my team is, I don't know what divisions are, so it should be interesting.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, the list that's on the screen now, and Cody, feel free to pull up my stream just so you can kind of keep along, because Connor has a copy of this PowerPoint. Cool. I turned my mic down just a little bit, guys. Anyways, people were complaining in the chat. By the way, so if you have
Talk real close to the mic.
Yes, no, Cody, you're good. I turn your guys' up, turn mine down. They don't want to hear me talk. Who cares? Cody's here. Who cares what anybody else says? If you have comments, do not go in Slack. I don't have it up.
Yes.
I don't want you to talk in Slack because there's some guys that can't watch this live. And for those guys that can't watch this live, we don't want you spoiling in the regular chat. Feel free to say whatever you want in the Twitch chat. Twitch just chat it up.
Yeah. Don't do any leaks in the Slack channel. Because like you said, there's a lot of people that I'm sure will be watching this tonight, tomorrow, whatever it may be. So don't spoil anything in the general.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep things to the Twitch chat, as CMass and Cody just said. And CMass, do you mind real quick if I air some grievances before we get this thing started?
Go ahead.
So, a certain commissioner by the name of Alex Gossett. So what happened was Ben posted his dream division. He included me, he included Alex, and he included Justin. And Alex said, it's going to be sad to see Connor get 4th in the division every year, just like last time.
Oof.
Now, Alex, I totally get, multiple times Super Bowl, has beaten me something like 12 straight times. I get that. Ben, Super Bowl champion of his own, just made the Super Bowl last year. By far a better use than me. I get that. I will acquiesce to them that I'm finishing 3rd. But to finish 4th to Justin, are you on crack? Like, what? That pissed me the hell off, CMass and Cody. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm still a little heated about it.
Watch your profanity.
Actual reveal, but my God, the level of disrespect, Alex. I actually can't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, Justin is obviously a guy that can compete for the playoffs, but he's also a guy that can just disappear. And so, and you know our boy Connor just brings the heat 24/7.
The heat is coming.
I appreciate that. That's a very optimistic way to look at my Madden career, but I appreciate it.
I already got people in the chat calling Connor out. Taint's already saying, I hope Connor's in my division. I'll own him.
Okay, I'll tone it down.
All right, so
we're here for the team review. We're not here for me to yell at people for an hour, so it's all good.
here's the breakdown. All right, the very next slide is going to be analytics from the list. Just kind of a breakdown of teams that were rated really high, teams that were rated really low, teams that people had differing opinions on, stuff like that. We'll talk about the list. Then we're going to get right into the team review, which is what everybody's looking for. It's broken down by division, alphabetical order. So all the AFC teams first, then NFC teams, and at the end there'll be a screen with all the divisions up. And we'll discuss more into the divisional breakdowns and everything like that. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with basically the analytics of it all. Okay. So first thing that's going to pop up is all the teams that had, and this is just the top like 6 or 7 teams that had were picked number 1. Okay. Starting off with the Ravens, who had 4 people have them as the number 1 pick. 49ers 3, Cardinals 3, and so on and so forth. Connor, you're the one that put these analytics together. Was there any sort of surprising team on this list that kind of you thought was a little shocking there were a lot of number 1 picks for?
Well, first I'll say top 3, Ravens, 49ers, Cardinals, all completely understandable in my opinion. In fact, I would have been a little surprised if they'd fallen anywhere outside this top, or outside the top like 5, for example. Those are very good Madden rosters, young, lot of skill there on both sides of the ball, so I totally get that. I think just looking at the whole list you've given me here, the Patriots don't surprise me just because, there are multiple Patriots fans in the league, so it makes sense that people would have them at number 1. I think the only one that really surprises me is the Raiders, just because, Dolphins, not necessarily the best overall roster, but they have Tua Tagovailoa, so, completely understandable if you want to build around him. Colts, Chiefs, and Browns, solid in all categories. I think the Raiders were the only one that really stuck out to me as being kind of an outlier there. I didn't necessarily get that, but what do you all think about the Raiders being there?
Yeah, I think in general, something that surprised me, like I said earlier to you guys, not on the stream, but before we were live, obviously the first like 20 or so people sent me their list, and in general, I was surprised with how little people had Ravens at 4. I'm sure Chase can speak to this, or anyone that got the cover athletes team. The cover athlete's going to be juiced. It's Lamar already, and so he's going to be crazy good. And the Ravens are already a stacked team, and somehow they've gotten better from last year. And so it was surprising me that only 4 people had the Ravens as first. As far as the Raiders go, number 1 is maybe a bit surprising to me, but not shocking. I could definitely see them in a lot of people's top 5s. Because they have so much youth on that team. There's not really a ton you need to do if you want to get rid of Derek Carr or move on from Derek Carr and start with a drafted quarterback or something like that, or whatever. So you have a lot of things that you can kind of do with that team, which is maybe what the 2 users that had them 1 are kind of thinking.
Yeah, for me, I'm not too shocked to see Raiders on there, especially for somebody like a Henry Ruggs and stuff like that. A lot of good young talent. They had a great draft class last year, so kind of echoing Cody's point. The team that kind of surprised me was the Colts with 2 number 1 picks. I understand they got a good offensive line, but outside of that, I was kind of like looking back at the draft, and Jonathan Taylor's pretty exciting, I guess, as far as a rookie's concerned. But I didn't really see anything that really jumped out at me, so that one kind of surprised me. As far as number 1 picks are concerned, let's go ahead and move to the next list, which is going to be all the teams, the highest teams that are ranked 32nd. So how many people pick them as the very last team? Starting off with the Jets, who had 5 people rank them as number 32, and so on and so forth. Ironically, Patriots and Raiders both had 2 votes as the dead last team. So Connor, I'll start with you because you have the information first. Any teams on here that kind of jump out at you?
Sure. First off, the Jets being highest there, completely understandable. I can get further into detail later, but they are, in my opinion, the single worst roster heading into Madden 21 in the better league. So I totally understand y'all having them at number 32, especially the Patriots fans who just hate them by nature. I will say I am personally higher on the Jaguars roster than it seems like the rest of the league is. I don't necessarily think of them as like a top 10 roster or anything, but number 32 seems harsh. They do have a lot of youth, especially defensively. Gardner Minshew is going to be a decent, quarterback on the rookie scale. Leonard Fournette, an absolute monster, has been every cycle we've had him. So I get people potentially putting the Jaguars bottom 5, but I don't know. To have 3 people put them at number 32 was a little surprising. The rest of these I get on some level. Saints, I would take exception to, but I know there are Falcons fans in this league, so that's probably where that comes from.
Connor?
Yeah, I think everything is everything is pretty, I guess, typical to me here, and nothing shocks me other than, to be honest with you, one that I thought that should be placed at 32 more, and I know we have a couple Bears fans, but is the Bears, because, like, I just don't know. That's just a tough situation. Like, you have, and in terms of, like, what probably is their Madden rating, you have 2 average quarterbacks on, one is a massive, freaking salary, and another one that's on the last year of his rookie deal, so it's still like a pretty first round rookie deal, so it's still pretty big. And obviously you can amnesty one, but then at the same time you're just giving someone a free quarterback, so then you probably want to trade it, but you're not going to get a lot of offers for Trubisky or Nick Foles probably, because I'm assuming both those guys will be like low 80s or maybe even high 70s. And so to me, I mean, I know they have a good defense, and but I like, and, you know, they've got some playmakers on offense, but I don't know. That just seems like a nightmare of a rebuild, I guess. So, I don't know.
Shout out to Ben for extending his subscription until September. Big shout out to Radiant King for the follow. I agree with everything you guys said. We're going to move on to the next list, so we'll get into the chat here real quick. Some Maurice Little talk still. That's carrying over from Madden 20 to Madden 21. So that's awesome. Tain says he loves this league. And then a lot of Bears talk. People kind of disagreeing with you about Bears, mostly about their defense and Allen Robinson, coming from Alex Goss, who I think is a big Bears fan. So take that with you what you will. Next list is going to be the team list, top 5 teams that were ranked in the bottom 5. So go ahead and pull that up. Jets taking that one away by a lot. 17 people put them in the bottom 5. I want to talk to the other 15 people that didn't have them in the bottom 5. Kind of curious where they were. Jaguars 13, Patriots 10. Patriots, man, they're all over the place. Redskins 9, shocking. And then Rams 8. Connor, again, I'm going to start with you. What kind of jumped out at you at this one?
Sure. I mean, you know, once again, I'm higher on the Jaguars than the rest of the league is, but I won't repeat myself there. You know, I've already kind of spoken my piece on this. I will say, like, the Washington racial slurs, I think they're a little undervalued here, just because of Chase Young. I mean, he is going to be such a force at the defensive end position, a man that you can dev all cycle long. He will give you just an instantaneous pass rush, no matter how the rest of the D-line's looking. I just thought people, just purely because of Chase Young, who is most likely the best defensive player in the draft, I just thought more people would give, again, the racial slurs a bit more love just based on that. But, I mean, you know, overall, not the best roster in the world. So if you just, like, forgot about them, or if you just, like, don't like them for whatever reason, I get it. And then the rest of them are understandable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the Redbirds, if you will, are I don't know. I saw people talking about that should be their name on Twitter. Anyways,
yeah, I was like, who?
It's because I think there's like sorry, this is a random point, but they were like a fleet of African American pilots that fought in some war. Or
Oh no,
like
it was those are the I'm drawing a blank. It's not Redbirds. Red Tails.
Right. Red Tails. Okay, that's what it was. Red Tails. Red Tails.
Yeah.
I was close. But yeah, none of these are super surprising to me. Other than, yeah, I mean, I think I'm maybe a little surprised to not see the Jets, maybe in the 20s. But that's how these things shake down. You know, like all of a sudden, somebody that had, you know, the 17th pick or something like that has the Jets, and then it's like, oh, like this, you know, and that's gonna happen all night long. Things kind of get interesting like that.
Hilarious that while we were stumbling trying to think of the name, like 8 or 9 people came in chat immediately like Red Tails. Which, you know, we're at like 35 viewers right now, guys. So we got some people outside the league checking in. So good for us. Good for Better League. Next list is going to be and we already kind of teased this one a little bit, but it's the top 5 teams with the average pick. So the teams that were kind of rated the highest, starting with the Ravens, Cardinals, Chiefs, Chargers, which surprised some people, and then the Browns. Connor, again, going to start off with you. What are your thoughts on this list?
You know, I'll be honest with you, CMass. I don't really have any like super strong takes about this. I mean, the Chargers weren't like that high on my list. I think they're in my top 10 compared to the top 5, but like all of these are totally justifiable in my opinion. Like the Cardinals at number 2 ahead of the Chiefs and like Browns specifically might surprise me a little bit, but like nothing really jumps out as being egregious here, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, those all look pretty up to par for me. A lot of talent, a lot of room to kind of do what you want to do or grow a quarterback or trade some pieces, stuff like that. So it all makes sense to me.
Big shout out to Crazy Cody with the 5 gifted subs. I mean, that is ridiculous. You guys are nuts.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it so much.
course.
5 gifted subs, which went to a few people that are actually in the league. And why are they not subscribed? I don't know. Lunica, Chap, Austin, and then Bird, who's in my other league, and then SSN1 per Beast, who is a recent follow. Thank you, Cody, for that. Big clap in the chat. This list doesn't surprise me as far as these top 5 teams, because most of them were in my top 5 too, so I feel pretty good about it. The next list, this is going to be the interesting one. This is what Connor, I had to actually ask him. I'm like, what does this even mean? He is, it's called standard deviation, which he described to me as the difference between, actually, Connor, why don't you go ahead and explain it?
Sure. I mean, I'm sure Dan's about to yell at me because I'm not exactly the best mathematician in the world either, but it's essentially like whichever team had the biggest spread from their average, I guess, list placement, I should say. So, like, the higher the standard deviation is, the more people disagreed on the teams. Now, Patriots, for example, totally get that. You know, some teams had them at some users had them at number 1 or in their top 5, and then some users, I might have been one of those users, put them in their bottom 5. So, like, that's just kind of an example of what I'm talking about. Just, like, a big spread and a lot of disagreement in terms of where to put them on the list.
Yeah, the only ones that then surprise me knowing that is the 49ers and the Raiders. Because I feel like, for the most part, you probably, like, at least in my opinion, both of those teams are probably like top 10 teams, or could be top 10 teams, or at the lowest, maybe you put them 15 or something like that. So I don't know. I feel like kind of crazy, I guess, that that the Raiders and Niners being the obviously, you know, the Super Bowl losers, and then the Raiders just with a lot of youth on that team. The rest of them I think makes sense just based on your opinion on kind of what you want to do with Pat Skins and Dolphins.
49ers surprised me for sure, because it's a team that's in the Super Bowl. I mean, so they're going to be highly rated. The fact that there's that much deviation kind of threw me off. Patriots I could understand because they're not a great team, but there's a lot of Patriots fans. Same thing with the Dolphins. Although the Dolphins have a lot of good young players. Interesting. And then Redskins, for some reason, people just didn't like. I was really high on Redskins, so I could understand the standard deviation on that. Jumping in the chat here real quick. Again, taint calling out Connor, but hopefully...
I'm just going to let it go for now. See me on the field, Tank.
Yeah, and of course, ironically, Justin, every time I have my stream up, he's always like, I'm trying to sub, man. Something's wrong with my Twitch. I don't know what's going on. The person can't even figure out how to divide correctly, so I'm not surprised that he can't figure out how to sub. But I appreciate the thought, though. Let's move on. Last list, and then we'll get into the teams, which I know everybody's really chomping at the bit for, which we're at 40 viewers now.
Yeah.
We'll move on is going to be the teams that had the most top 5 ratings, which is pretty similar to the average pick one, except for the difference being the 49ers on the list as opposed to the Browns. Connor, again, I'll start off with you since you had the information. What jumped out at you at that?
Sure. I mean, I'll just say real quick as an aside that I think 40 viewers is the most viewers we've ever had for any Better League production. So good job showing out, y'all. Keep it up. Keep giving your opinions in the chat, whatever. It's great to see you all in here. As far as the list you just gave me goes, again, no big surprises. I mean, like, in a vacuum, I will say having over half of the league put the Cardinals in their top 5, like, not shocking to me, but like a little surprising, just because I personally, like, I didn't think they would be some like hugely sought after team. You know, clearly I was wrong in that regard because they're second to the average pick and second here as well, tied for first, I should say. But that would be the only thing that really sticks out. Everything else, totally understandable. A lot of very strong rosters, very strong Madden rosters in that list.
Yeah. all these make sense to me. Maybe Chargers are a little bit surprising because, I mean, I guess they've got a couple like really standouts, and then maybe people just really like Herbert, but I feel like if you were going to go with a young quarterback, I mean, maybe this is my Bengals bias. I don't know why you wouldn't put Bengals top 5 or even to get out of Bengals bias, why you wouldn't put Dolphins top 5, who have a lot more youth than the Chargers. But so that one's a bit surprising to me, I guess, Chargers wise. And then, and then I guess just looking at the standard deviation and then the top 5, it's funny to me. Like you had 10 users that had 49ers top 5, and then the rest of them just must have had them like in like 20 or higher. So that's kind of interesting to me.
Jumping back at the chat, I'm realizing now that I need a catchphrase because Justin says Cody has crazy, Connor has in a vacuum, and I've got nothing. I need to.
It'll say itself soon.
Eventually.
I mean, really, mine's probably "Let's Go, Baby," but it's also crazy.
That's true. Yeah, and you actually have a little thing for that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So that's it for the analytics. That'll end the stream for today. And I'm kidding.
Yeah, see y'all.
Let's go ahead. And I know y'all been waiting for this part. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. We're going to start, like I said. Let's jump right into it. Like I said, alphabetical order. Thank you for the follow. I'm your dad. Dad? Is that really you? Go ahead and jump right in. Alphabetical order. AFC East. Again, let's go ahead and get started. And just explain the order here. For example, we're going to stop at the top left corner. Jets, then Dolphins, then Bills, then Patriots. Your name will appear over the team you are. So you see the team in the background. Your name will appear on which team you are. Okay?
Crazy. Drag this out even more. I love this.
Yep. All right. So for the Jets, may not be a surprise to most, is going to be the guy who is most hated right now, Ocho. And then just for example, 32nd, that number 32 means that's where the team was picked. So you get an idea of where they were taken. Ocho with the Jets. Connor, your thoughts?
So it was always going to be Jets versus the field in terms of who Ocho was going to end up with, especially given just how many people had them in their bottom 5 and how low the league was on the Jets overall, by far more than any other team. And I can't say I'm particularly surprised to see Ocho take over the Jets, especially if Jamal Adams gets traded within the next couple of weeks, like we think we will. I have this as the single worst Madden roster in the Better League heading into Madden 21. There's just not a lot to work with. The only saving grace for Ocho is that he does have Sam Darnold on that rookie contract for a couple more years. He has cap flexibility. He can make some things work early on where he doesn't have to be stuck with this horrific Jets roster for the rest of the cycle necessarily, but make no mistake about it, it's totally understandable why the league did not pick the Jets and why Ocho ended up with them at pick 32. A deserving pick because Ocho is a scumbag.
Yeah, I agree. Not a ton to work with. I mean, you are giving obviously Ocho a young Sam Darnold, but obviously Ocho has proven that he likes to run the ball. And you have an old Le'Veon Bell, so some room to grow. I guess really we're gonna see how much of a team builder Ocho is, in terms of the some of the better ones. Rest in peace Jared or Ben, for example. But yeah, I mean, it was just a toss up of if the cards are gonna we're gonna fold that way, and they folded that way, and so. But I will say, and I don't know who else is obviously in this division, but now you have what it looks to be potentially what could be the makings of actually maybe pretty solid division here.
Ocho's known for a while. I mean, most people can guess. The analytics also showed that the Jets were probably going to be the last pick. So, I mean, he changed his name to Darnold's. So, I think he had this feeling. I mean, that seems to be the only saving grace for this Jets team is that the fact that they at least have a young quarterback that should be somewhat decent. Yeah. And we'll see how he does with it. He's still one of the best users. So, I mean, I anticipate that he'll do pretty well. But let's go ahead and move on to the rest of these teams, which, like I said in the example, we'll be moving on to the Dolphins. So, the user to be taking over the Dolphins, and I'm sad to say it because most people wanted it to be a certain user, and they were right. It's Nico with the Dolphins, who got it with the 8th pick. Connor, your thoughts?
rejoice in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're all happy to see Nico end up with this Miami Dolphins team. And as you said in the introduction, Cody, this could potentially be a very dangerous Miami Dolphins roster. You have Tua Tagovailoa on that rookie deal. You have a lot of young talent, not necessarily the more well-established names in the NFL necessarily, but a lot of young talent that can be devved on both the offensive and defensive side of the balls. I'm excited to see how Nico fucks this up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously, we love Nico. He, he hasn't maybe ever showed that he's been a playoff contender, and now he's got Ocho in his division. And we don't know, obviously, two decently solid teams coming up here as well, so we don't know that shakes down. But, the most important part of CFM is having fun, and, he gets his favorite team with Tua. A lot of youth. It's looking up, in real life and in Madden. So happy for him. The fact that he was top 10 definitely helped him, because I don't know if they would have fell out of the top 10. But yeah, happy for Nico.
Very good young team. Very happy for Nico. And based on chat's response, they're also super happy for Nico.
They're rejoicing.
Although there's been a few people say, take it easy on him, Ocho. And Ocho saying, please trade me Kalen Ballage. So we'll see how that works out. Moving on.
Not again.
Please don't, guys.
Moving on to the Buffalo Bills, my hated Buffalo Bills, will be a user that I used to have to play. Mr. Young Alex, with the 27th pick, received the Buffalo Bills. Connor, your thoughts?
So this is an interesting one, CMass, and I do think the Bills roster was potentially a little bit slept on by the rest of the league. You have, of course, one of the biggest arms in the league in Josh Allen, still a young quarterback, still a quarterback that you can use for the vast majority of the cycle, if not the whole thing. And when you look at the defensive pieces they have, especially the young rookie and second-year defensive pieces, if young Alex plays this right, he can develop a really strong front seven. You have a pair of 22-year-olds in Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle, and Tremaine Edwards, the linebacker. Those are both going to be star players in the Bear League moving forward, as well as the newly drafted rookie defensive end, AJ Epinesa. I think this is something, if young Alex, I should say, if he devs this correctly, if he's able to build this Bills roster moving forward, I think this can be a roster to fear with. Now, will young Alex be a user to fear with? Because he's been the definition over his entire Bear League career of an any given Sunday user. He can beat anyone when he's on, and he can lose to anyone when he's off. That's just kind of the thing with him. He's pretty average in that capacity, and I can say that because I am also average in that capacity. So it'll be interesting to see what young Alex does. I have faith that he'll be able to get this Bills roster churning. I think they're in a better spot, at least than the Jets roster, and probably than the Dolphins roster as well. And I'm interested to see how he team builds moving forward. That'll be something to look out for, I think, in the first couple seasons of Madden 21.
Yeah. The Bills falling that far is a bit shocking for sure. I mean, Josh Allen and company, just were in the playoffs. A lot of those players are going to be pretty well rated. I would be happy if I were Alex, thinking dang, I fell super far in the draft and then falling into what should be a pretty solid Bills roster, to be honest. And so, maybe a bit tough knowing that he's got Ocho in his division here. And I think I know who the Patriots are. And so I think this is going to shape up to a pretty tough division here. So maybe that's the only thing he will be worried about is, just the amount of talent in here. But yeah.
Young Alex, very excited to get this Bills team. He actually had them in his top 5. So he's very excited to get them at 27. Big shout out to Cam with the 2 gifted subs to Spunky Beast and Damn Daniel Jags. So very exciting. Thank you very much, Cam. Like I said, this is a serious stream, so there'll be no singing of Happy by Pharrell Williams. Let's move on. Okay. Patriots, last team in the division. I made it easy for Connor to follow along because I know he struggles with which teams are in which division. I put the pictures up for you, Connor.
I appreciate that.
All right. Patriots. This is an interesting one. A lot of Patriots fans in the league. I see a lot of people cheering for Morty in the chat. Some people saying it might be Austin. So let's see who got it. With the Patriots for Madden 21 is going to be none other than the scum from Rhode Island, Austin, with the number 1 pick. Connor, your thoughts?
I think as soon as Austin got the #1 pick in the lottery, I think we all had kind of a suspicion which way this is going, if not outright confirmation. And this is going to put Austin's rebuilding abilities to the test to their fullest extent. We know how strong of a team builder Austin is. Think back to Madden 18, where he was able to build the Philadelphia Eagles into one of the premier rosters in the league. That front seven still strikes fear into the hearts of a lot of old-time Better League members. But even with Cam Newton, this is going to be a real rebuilding project, make no mistake about it. They have the oldest offense and the oldest defense in the league, according to last year's starting lineups. No real rookies to build off of. Of course, Bill Belichick, we all know how he does with first-round picks. And they have tons of expiring contracts. So even with the loads of cap space that Austin's about to have to work with, he's going to have to either re-sign a lot of people or risk losing even more talent in New England. So I have faith in Austin. I have faith in him to eventually build this Patriots team to the dynasty that, quite frankly, it should be with him at the helm. But I do think especially season 1, season 2, early on in the cycle is going to be a struggle for Austin. Maybe not necessarily in the division, other than of course against Ocho. But as far as the entire AFC goes, I don't necessarily see him as an early Super Bowl contender just because of that.
Yeah, I'm slightly curious if I don't know if you guys saw, but earlier today in the Slack, Austin asked if lists were locked. So I don't know if maybe that was him slightly second guessing his #1 pick, but I don't know. It was just a weird comment, I guess, but all that being said, I guess I think Austin's probably pumped. Besides from that comment, I guess, because knowing him, being friends with him, having, we text, we talk, I know that he was not excited about this Patriots team and had said multiple times he would love if they signed Cam Newton. So I think the second that they signed Cam, he was probably like, heck yeah, let's go. So obviously a lot of talent on that defense. You get Cam Newton, you get N'Keal Harry, a couple other, the Sony Michel, so they've got talent on that roster, and you've obviously got an elite user in Austin. And so, yeah, it's going to shake up to be an interesting division, with Ocho, Alex, Nico, and Austin for sure.
Mixed results in the chat for this one. A lot of people talking. It was sad for Morty, talking about the dynasty being over for Morty. People talking about an Austin versus Ocho rivalry building potentially. I see Austin and young Alex are already talking shit in the chat, so that you love to see that. But I think Dan surmised it.
Okay.
Dan kind of surmised it the best, saying when I pulled Austin's balls from the container, which let's be honest,
Gay!
He said that he knew he had sealed Morty's fate. So a great quote by Dan, as he has so many. And big shout out to Dan for a great show this morning. Claps in chat for Dan for doing a great job on the lottery this morning. That's the AFC East. Feel free to comment on the AFC East. We're going to talk more about the divisions at the end with all the divisions showing. So let's go ahead and move forward to the AFC North. You see the teams here: Browns, Steelers, Bengals, Ravens. We will be going in that order with the Cleveland Browns. We have our humble host, Connor, who he took them with the 2nd overall pick. Connor, your thoughts?
Stand up, Cleveland. I mean, I kind of went back and forth on this for a long time. Do I choose my favorite team in the Seattle Seahawks? Do I go another way? But honestly, I think this Cleveland Browns roster is as close to fail-proof as you can get, especially for team builders, mediocre as myself. I mean, they have so much young talent. They have Baker Mayfield, obviously, the young quarterback who will still be solid in Madden, even though he had a bit of a questionable year last year. Nick Chubb, I'm very excited to use him. He is not on the trading block. Do not ask me for him. Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, potentially two of the best receivers in the league there. An elite young secondary, and Myles Garrett as a pass rusher. I mean, this is the ultimate test of team over scheme here, because if there's any team that I can potentially succeed with, despite my questionable scheme and potentially take to great heights, it is this Cleveland Browns team. I'm very excited to use it, and I'm excited to see, even though I already know, of course, I'm excited to see what you all think about who the rest of the users are in my division.
Cody, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I had to say this before I forgot about it. Taint says in chat, obviously Connor's vacuum is brown. So I just thought that was hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
So Cody,
That's why I love Tate.
your
That's why I
Cody, your
love Tate
thoughts.
and why him and his 2 balls deserve to be picked as early as they were. And I would pick his balls any day. Anyways,
100%
yeah,
same.
great team. Great team. I think obviously I don't know. I'm kind of having heart palpitations just waiting to see what happens in in that top right corner. But I will say, yeah, I'm excited for you, Connor. I think, yeah, the Browns are a fun team. So much talent on both sides of the ball. And what I assume this is going to be potentially the toughest division. Without, like I said, I don't know anything, but so I'm interested to see how this shakes down. But I'm excited for you. I think Browns top 5 is a great pick. Got them at 2. And yeah, you get to go ball out.
A lot of reactions on this one for you, Connor, mostly negative. I'm sorry to say it, but they're saying that Cloud saying you're trash. Alex saying you please take care of Baker. Yeah.
Cloud hasn't done literally anything relevant since Madden 18, so I'm not accepting that from him.
Yeah, and then the infamous comment from Taint.
Yeah, actually might be having a heart attack right now.
All right, let's move on to the Steelers. I'm not worried about it. Should I call 911 or should I just let it go? Move on? All right.
That's okay. My phone's next to me.
All right, cool. Move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this person's a fan of this team, so I think they'll be pretty excited. Jesse, with the 23rd pick, receives the Pittsburgh Steelers. Connor,
Interesting.
your thoughts?
We saw Jesse, this is a repeat of the team that Jesse had pretty much all of Madden 20 long, and we saw him be consistently good but not great with this Pittsburgh Steelers roster. Of course, we saw him just clap Wozzy's cheeks in the playoffs last year. That was probably his cycle highlight, at least that I'm aware of. But he wasn't a consistent playoff contender. Of course, part of that is having Fern in your division for most of the time. Fern, one of the best, at least regular season users in this league. But I'm really interested to see what Jesse does here. I'm not super high on the roster, except for a couple categories. The receiving core, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron is going to match up nightmare for anyone. I think Jesse's going to be able to make that work. And then a lethal linebacking core, specifically, you have TJ Watt and Devin Bush. We'll see if it's enough to end up competing in this division. We'll see what Jesse's able to do season in, season out, game in and game out, frankly. But I'm sure Jesse's excited to have this team. This was, I can reveal, this was Jesse's first team on his list. This was his number 1 pick, so I'm sure Jesse's thrilled right now, and we'll see how the rest of the division shakes out.
Yeah, it looks like from the chat, Jesse's pumped. Obviously it's a repeat team, but when it's your favorite team, that's enough to get any user excited to play with the team that they're a fan of. So yeah, I think that's awesome. It's a perfect situation. Steelers have a lot of talent. I think this is a tough division in real life, and potentially in better league it might shape up to be. But I think maybe them falling all the way to 23 especially is a big W for Jesse, because there's still plenty of talent on that roster. So good for him.
100%.
A lot of reactions in chat for this one. I think most people are surprised that Jesse was able to get his favorite team this late. Most people felt pretty bad for him that he got such a late lottery pick. So, I mean, people are pretty happy for him. I already got lucky saying that this is going to be the best division, and we've only gone through AFC East and half the AFC North. So, a little premature, I would say. But let's go ahead. There's obviously been a few predictions for the Bengals. Let's see if they're true. So, Cincinnati Bengals. He's talked about it a lot in this chat or this video. Unfortunately, he was not able to get them. The person that did receive the Bengals, just kidding, was Cody Youngsung with the 13th pick.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead. What's your reaction?
I mean, let's go, baby. mean, come on. I've got Joe Burrow. I've got John Ross. I've got T. Higgins. I've got A.J. Green. I've got Tyler Boyd. I've got Joe Mixon. Need I continue? I mean, we got William Jackson III. We've got Von Bell. Carlos Dunlap. The amount of talent that is slept on this team, the fact that they weren't top 5 for most of you shocks me. There is so much whether you want to, yeah, sure, we won 2 games last year in real life, but listen, this is a Madden roster right here. This is a Madden roster. Like, this is a Madden user's dream, and you guys just gave them to me out of the top 10. Thank you.
The Cincinnati Bengals were number 2 on my list, and Cody, I completely agree with everything what you're saying here. Yes, they were. This is a very slept-on roster. You have Joe Burrow, who's going to be just an absolutely incredible rookie quarterback. Gave to Dev. I mean, Cody, you just went through the list. I'm not even going to say it again, but I think this is a very slept-on roster, one that you will be able to build with. The defense. There are some phases of the defense that do have some concerns to me, as I'm sure you know about. Some perhaps older players that will need replacing, but that offense is looking really good. And man, having Cody Youngson as the Bengals in my division, I am terrified, ladies and gentlemen.
Which leads us to the Ravens, the last team in the division. A lot of people in chat, which, by the way, Cody, pretty much everyone's super excited that you got the Bengals. A lot of pew-pews in the chat. All those people are spelling it B-E-W, bew. I'm not sure what that is. Bew. Anyways, Ravens. A lot of people saying, potentially Dan, potentially Ben. They both passed on this Ravens team. I am shocked to tell you that this team fell all the way to number 6, to Mr. Lucky Chew, who gets the Baltimore Ravens. I think he had like 4 balls, and he gets the 6th pick and gets the Ravens. Connor, your thoughts?
I mean, this is going to be the Lamar Jackson and Marquise Brown show. I don't think there's any other 2 ways to go about it here. On paper, this is a solid defense, but a very old defense, one that he's going to have to quickly replace here at all levels. And we don't know how good of a team builder Lucky Chew is. We don't know how capable he'll be, at being that. I'm still shook that Cody's my division, as you can tell. But, I mean, Lamar Jackson will just single-handedly carry Lucky Chew to some wins. I mean, he is, especially after the MVP season he had last year, he is going to be given all the abilities, all the attributes, and if Lucky Chew can just be competent on the offensive side of the ball, he will put points on the board. Again, I have questions defensively. He's going to have to rebuild on that side of the ball, but I do think Lucky Chew can be competitive in what's looking like a very solid division with, of course, Cody headlining it as the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he can be competitive, but we're going to need to see A, more consistency from him just on like a user skill level, and B, how he does rebuilding this Ravens defense. I'm very excited to be in this division. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, this is going to be a hype division. I am surprised that I'm not surprised that Dan didn't want them. I'm a little surprised that Phil or Ben didn't have them within their top 5. That's how that works, right? They would have been out of their top 5.
It depends, yeah, but yeah.
But yeah, so a bit. Yeah, Lucky Chew's got to be absolutely hyped because this is a team that could have went 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, it could have went literally any number before him. And yeah, and he got him at 6, and so I'm excited for this division. Played Lucky Chew a few times in Madden, in this past Madden. Obviously, very cool with Jesse, very cool with you, Connor. So I think it's gonna be a great, fun division.
I appreciate that, Cody. And, one thing I forgot to mention before we continue is every user in this division got their number 1 overall pick. The Baltimore Ravens were number 1 on Lucky Chew's list, and then, of course, everyone else got their number 1. So very happy times here in the AFC North.
That's interesting. That's really, that's nuts.
And that's the only division where that's the case. So just an interesting anecdote there.
Awesome. A lot of different responses in chat. A whole lot of wows. A whole lot of what. Definitely. So people are saying that Cody's going to be running away with this division, and one person in particular, Taint, says so Connor will finish 4th in this division. So a lot of shit talking from Taint to Connor today.
I think it's going to be. I think it'll be decently competitive. I will, I guess, gas myself up a little bit that I think I'm the front runner, but I would say between Connor, Jesse, and Lucky Chew, I'd say that's a pretty, anything could happen there depending on, how each user plays and stuff like that.
And that's pretty much exactly what I said, Cody, in my little write-up here. I said that like all three of us, myself, Jesse, and Lucky Chew, can compete any given season, any given game, but we know season in, season out that you will compete and you'll be the most consistent one of us. I mean, who knows if you win the division every year necessarily? You know, maybe one of us can sneak up on you one of these years, maybe even off season. But I do think you are the clear front runner here, and I'm not gonna lie to myself here. I think this is the Cody Youngson show featuring Connor, Jesse, and Lucky Chew. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to be a part of it. It's not like a ridiculously stacked division, but of course, Cody, you are clearly the better user than me, clearly the more accomplished user than me. So it's gonna be a grind, and I'm excited to get going.
For sure. I guess we kind of jumped ahead a little bit there and talked about the division too, but we'll do
It's
that
fine.
time.
It's fine. We gotta move on, guys. Jesus.
We'll hit this one. We'll hit this one quicker when we get there.
Yeah, hit it quicker. That's what they love to hear. You made me lose train of thought because you were talking so long. No, it's all good. I think it's funny seeing that a team like the Ravens fall. A lot of people that were ahead of the Ravens' 6th pick are trying to guess where Dan and Ben went. A lot of people saying Ben to the Falcons. A lot of people saying Dan running back in the Jaguars. I guess we'll find out. We're actually going to jump to the AFC South that has the Jaguars in it. But we're going to start with the same spot we always do, which is the top left-hand corner, which is the Titans of Tennessee. And that's going to be the doctor of the group, Mr. Dr. Gamble, with the 30th pick, getting the Tennessee Titans. Connor, your thoughts?
Ground and pound and a solid defense is going to need to be the name of the game here for Gamble. I actually think this sets up well for what I'm hoping for Gamble's sake is a very conservative offensive approach with Derrick Henry and company. They have a solid defense in all capacities, as well as, of course, Derrick Henry is going to be the best power back in the league. We'll see how effective, power running backs are in Madden 21. I guess we don't really know that yet. But I say all of that to say that it masks Ryan Tannehill, who is both 31 years old and I assume is going to be, pedestrian at best, and perhaps the least effective wide receiving core in the league, especially from a Madden standpoint. They have no one. So that's something that Gamble's got to figure out. I hope he goes run heavy. I say this a lot in my podcast. There are a lot of users who I think should go more run heavy than they do because they tend to throw a lot of picks. Maybe I'm one of those users. Shut the hell up in the chat. But I do think that this could potentially be a roster that Gamble can succeed with if he plays the right way. Solid defense, Derrick Henry. He'll have to figure out the passing game. That's just the name of the game here. But I like this fit for Gamble. I'm a little surprised they dropped all the way to 30, but here we are, Gamble with Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised they dropped this far. To Ocho's point in the chat, he said, wow, like at the Titans, like he almost, he was 2 picks away from falling into a playoff team. And then also to Chase points, he said, he thinks Madden is going to love that. I mean, it's a playoff roster, so Madden is going to look at the film, and there's going to be plenty of high-rated players on that team. And, Derrick Henry being one that literally could be, upwards of 90, 95 overall potentially with just the dominant run he had the latter half of the season. But yeah, I mean, I'd be pumped if I was Gamble. Had 2 balls, fell to 30. You're thinking I'm going to get a crappy team, and you got a team that was in the playoffs and made a playoff run.
A lot of people in chat are surprised that this team fell, along with Connor. I think this is a team that EA is going to love because they made it to the AFC Conference Championship game. So we'll see. I mean, Gamble getting the Tennessee Titans, that's pretty exciting. Let's move on to the next team in the AFC South, which is the Indianapolis Colts. This user somehow, for some reason, had them their number 1 team, and they got them all the way at the 14th pick, and that would be Mr. Justin Teeley with the Indianapolis Colts. Connor, your thoughts?
For sure. I mean, as you just said, number 1 on number 1 on Justin's list. I get Austin and Justin confused all the time, man. It's hard out here. But even at the 14th spot, they fell to him. And honestly, I can see why. I maybe not quite as high on them as Justin is necessarily, but they have youth on both sides of the ball, a solid trio of offensive pieces, offensive rookies, I should say. Jacob Eason, Michael Pittman, and Jonathan Taylor. I'm sure he's especially excited to use Jonathan Taylor, the ex-Wisconsin running back. And a very strong offensive line. According to, PFF, they were 3rd in offensive line production last year, so I'm sure, Madden will look at that. I'm sure they'll give them their due respect there. The only real rebuilding project for the Colts is in the secondary. It's old and it's not particularly good, and that's something, if passing becomes the meta again in Madden 21, like we think, flips pass run every year. If passing becomes the meta again, that's something that Justin's going to have to figure out very quickly. But especially the 14th spot, I like this fit for Justin. I think he's going to be able to get a pretty consistent team going here in Indianapolis, and I'm sure he's thrilled about it.
Yeah, I think I know we talked about this a little pregame a little bit. I think the Colts are slept on in terms of Madden roster. I think I had them top 5, if I remember correctly. They're definitely top 10, if not top 5. But I think they're slept on because, yeah, you have Phillip Rivers, but that's one that you can trade. I think it's just a 1-year deal. You might be able to but you can go ahead and start Eason, and then you've got a ton of. To Lucky's point, you have potentially 3 offensive rookie of the year candidates, depending on how well Justin plays or how the AFC shakes out. Some ways using Joe Burrow, anyways. And then. Yeah, a lot of talent on that defense outside of the DBs. It's a young roster, and so yeah, I think it's a bit slept on. And he got him with his that was his number 1 pick. Got him at 14, so got to be happy.
Not a lot of reactions for this pick in the chat. I think it's mostly because of Justin.
And I mean, Jonathan Taylor went to Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So yes. I mean, makes sense that he had him number 1. He'll be
And-
happy. Justin likes to run the ball. Sorry, I said that wrong. Justin likes to run to his offensive lineman and never stumble.
Justin
I've experienced that plenty of times, Cody. Thanks for bringing that back up for me.
Justin seems to have picked them because of Jonathan Taylor. Got really excited and mentioned, all caps Jonathan Taylor. But for somebody that he likes so much, one of his favorite players, he couldn't even spell his name right in the chat. But that's beside the point. That's so Justin. So let's go ahead and move on from this Colts team. Yep. Move on to the Houston Texans, who's going to have escape artist Deshaun Watson, potentially. Well, who knows what I'll have. But that's going to be for Mr. Chap to figure out with the 21st pick. Got the Houston Texans. Connor, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've long, not to bully individual users here, but I've long said that Chapter Roll is not necessarily the underrated user that it seems like a lot of the league thinks he is. That's something that's a drum that I've pounded a lot on my podcasts, and he's going to be put to the test here because this is a difficult rebuilding project ahead of him. Deshaun Watson does get paid soon. I believe he only has 1 year left on his rookie salary, and then you're going to need to either pay that man or, I don't know why you would trade him, but if you want to do that, you can go ahead. But regardless, Watson gets paid soon, and the defense needs a lot of help. I'm going to be honest, in all capacities. They are old. They have a couple pieces. Of course, J.J. Watt's still there. He's still going to be a very strong pass rusher. They have a couple other pieces, but in general, just the depth isn't there. The star power isn't there on the defensive side of the ball. So he's going to have to figure this out. Luckily, he has a lot of cap space. The Houston Texans have a good amount of cap space. So if he can be, a decent team builder, if he can get the defense going, based on what we see so far in terms of the division, without having revealed the Jaguars, based on just Gamble and Justin being there, he could potentially be competitive. But I don't know. I just don't have the faith in him that the rest of the league does, it seems like.
Yeah. Texans are a tough roster, but it's got Deshaun Watson. So I think Deshaun Watson in some pieces on the defense, obviously, but I think those few pieces alone to get them at 21 is great and enough to be excited about it, enough to kind of be hyped. And like we said before, I mean Justin has showed that he can make the playoffs and make it consistently, but he's also showed that he can lose some games that he would typically win. So yeah, so I'd be excited if I was Chap. I don't mean to talk about division too much here, but I'll try to hold my breath a little there.
It's all good.
A lot of people saying that Justin's going to have an easy road in this division. We haven't even talked about the whole division yet.
Let's calm down, y'all. We don't know who the Jaguars are.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the division until the end.
The chat can talk about it all they want. A lot of people, they're mentioning Dan. A lot of people mentioning Dan for the Jags and then a bunch of other teams. Everybody likes talking about Dan for some reason. I guess it's the person they want to avoid, I guess, which I, segue into this Jaguars pick. I guess a certain somebody wanted to continue their dynasty from Madden to Madden. So they went a little higher than some expected. So with this pick, psych, it's not Dan. It's actually Cam with the 9th overall pick takes the Jaguars. Connor, your thoughts?
Justin's going to coast again, y'all. Not to talk about the division, but my goodness, am I upset. Just talking about this Jags team, let me not go too far ahead here. despite them being 31st on the average team list in terms of where people have them on their list, I honestly side with Cam. I side with how high Cam had them here, picking them 9th overall, and Cam did have the Jacksonville Jaguars first, I should say, on his list, the only user to have that by a mile, so, good for Cam for calling a shot there, but again, they have a workable, cheap quarterback in Gardner Minshew, they have Fournette, they have young talent at all 3 levels of the defense, front 4, linebacking core, and secondary. You can make something work here with this Jags roster, and they also have tons of cap space, so if Cam can prove to be a competent team builder, I feel like I'm kind of repeating what I said about Chaparral here, but if he can prove to be competent on the managerial side of the ball, if he can get this Jaguars roster fully devved and fully locked and loaded, I mean, again, not to telegraph too much, this is absolutely a division that Cam can compete in. It's absolutely a division that Dan can compete in, but is not in it. So, I mean, if I were any of these users, I'd be excited. I mean, it's wide open. These are some solid rosters here, and I think this is going to be an interesting division to watch moving forward.
Yeah. I love Cam. Cam's my longest subscriber on my channel. I'm Team Cam all day, every day. And just from knowing Cam, he likes to have fun with CFM. He likes to, he wants to win. He wants to compete just like everyone else, but he also just wants to have fun. And so I think that's kind of what he wanted, or what he was doing with this pick is, to your point before, Connor, is a lot of cap space. You can really do whatever you want with this team. They've got a young quarterback if you want to build Minshew up or whatever it may be. There's some pieces there on the defense, but obviously there are some gaps. But it doesn't shock me. I know some people are saying number 1. Oh my gosh, it doesn't shock me because it's Cam, and Cam just wants to do the unconventional thing, have fun, and that's what it's about. And I'm happy for him.
And I do really, but before we keep going, I do really love and respect Cam for that. I mean, this is the most competitive the Better League's ever been, and we're all taking it very seriously. We're making content, we're grinding, we're labbing, we're doing what we got to do to compete. I appreciate a guy in this league who he's just chill. He has fun with this. I think that's really necessary, for the Better League, for any Madden CFM to have guys like Cam, and I really respect him for that. I hope he can succeed. We'll see what happens.
Chat is not happy.
I can imagine. I'm not happy either.
They are livid. Some people saying, like Lucky Charms saying, he can't keep getting away with it. Yeah, and it looks like he's going to continue to get away with it. From your all's opinions, sorry to lead you on thinking it was Dan, but it was not. I had a little fun with it. Moving on, Lucky Charm says Connor could win this division.
The level of how many podcasts have I put together for you people? How much content have I put together for you people? And you just disrespect me day in and day out. I'm fed up.
I love it.
I'm acting like my FIFA self right now, y'all. I apologize. Y'all know how it is.
Anyways, moving on to the AFC West. And I'm so excited for this division because, in my opinion, as far as the divisions are concerned, Madden-wise, this is the best division because of the talent on the rosters. So let's go ahead and jump into it with the Denver Broncos coming all the way across the pond. Mr. Phillip with the 4th selection takes the Denver Broncos. Connor, your thoughts?
I wish I could pull off the accent like you can, but I'm not even going to attempt it. As Cody, as you just alluded to, this was the number 1 team on Phil's list here, and this is the team that he found so much success with in Madden 18, building what I think is still the most lethal secondary in the history of the Better League. 2 99 overalls, a 98 and a 96. It was just a no-fly zone out there in Denver. But not to talk about the past, let me talk about the present here. Phil's team building skills are once again going to be put to the test here. They have Jerry Jeudy is going to be an incredible, of course, rookie wide receiver. But other than that, it's a pretty nondescript wide receiving core. Drew Lock and Melvin Gordon, I expect they'll give Drew Lock, I think, decent stats. So I think that's workable from Phil's perspective. And of course he is young, so that means cap space. And then Melvin Gordon, we saw Melvin Gordon just this last cycle have a lot of success with the Chargers. He is now a Bronco. But the defense, once again, I sound like a broken record. It's an old defense. It's a defense that has pieces, but it's a defense that he's going to need to rebuild pretty quickly, especially, given the harsh Madden regression system. So I know Phil's excited. This is a team that I'm sure he's wanted really ever since he found success with them Madden 18. He finally comes back home Welcome to Denver, Phil.
Yeah. First thought, I'm surprised. I really didn't think Phil was going to be in Madden 21. That's my first thought. My second thought is, since he is in Madden 21, I'm not surprised that the Broncos were so high on his list. And he probably could have got them pretty far down. So anyone really seeing this is probably happy. Phil's happy that he got them. Everyone else is happy because they're like, I don't really care about the Broncos that much.
That's one more good team that they could potentially get. Yeah, so
yeah, and right. So it's a win-win for everybody. Phil is obsessed with Von Miller, and I'm sure he'll talk about him, and he will hope that Madden still has it to where he retires very late, because you can still get multiple seasons out of a guy that is probably going to be a 99 overall or close to it. And so, Phil loves the Broncos for some reason. We'll see what he does.
Broncos are actually in my top 5. I love the young offense. I love the Courtland Sutton. I love the Jerry Jeudy. I love the Noah Fant. I love the Drew Lock. I feel like it's an offense that you can build for the future. So they were in my top 5. Phil gets his team. Very excited for him. Let's move on to the other teams in this division. To the Raiders. Raiders user is somebody who, has had the same team for a while now, but is now going to have to mix it up because they were taken number 1 overall. So that's going to be Mr. Morty with the 15th pick. Morty's going to take over this Las Vegas Raiders team. Connor, your thoughts?
For the first time since the earliest stages of the Better League, Morty is a team other than the Patriots, and this is an interesting roster fit from Morty's perspective. I'll be very interested to see how he handles this roster, because we have seen him, he was Madden 17 and 18, it's fair to say he was probably the most lethal thrower of the ball, most lethal passer in the league, just an ultra efficient user in that regard, but we've seen him go more run heavy in later cycles, especially with, Sony Michel, James White. And he does have Josh Jacobs and a strong run-blocking offensive line, so that should make it easy on the offensive side of the ball for him. On the defensive side of the ball, I have serious questions about this Raiders roster here. Every key defender that I identified when I was doing research in terms of who are the key offensive pieces, key defensive pieces, etc., that you can potentially build with. Every major defender that I identified on this Raiders team is 27 years old or older, mostly older than that. So that's just something, he's not going to be able to really dev any of his current major defensive pieces, I should say. He's going to have to do a rebuild. He obviously, multiple-time Super Bowl champion, has the capability to do it. I'm just excited to see him as a team other than the Patriots. I'm just really interested to see how he does in Las Vegas.
I disagree a little bit. They've got some youth on the defense. They got Cleveland Farrell. They got Max Crosby, who really kind of quietly came onto the scene. They signed what's his name? I don't know how to say his
Livingston?
last name. Kwiatkowski. They signed Littleton. So there's definitely some age on that roster for sure. But Jonathan Abram on the defense as well. So I'm actually really interested to see Morty ball out as the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm refraining from commenting on the division, but I think this is really interesting. I'm actually really excited to see Morty use the Raiders.
A lot of people shocked in the chat on this one. Most are a little surprised that he got this team. I mean, the Patriots were taken, but ironically, and Morty's already said it in the chat, that this was his number 1 team, was the Oakland Raiders. He seems very excited about Henry Ruggs. A lot of people talking about Tanner Muse, which I think is a freak athlete. So we'll see how that works out. Moving on, though, to the Chiefs. How in the did this team slip? They fell so far. I am absolute shock.
I don't see it on my stream yet, or did you not click it?
I haven't clicked it yet. I'm building the suspense. This team fell into the lap of a certain somebody who kind of put a little extra balls in his sack, if you know what I'm saying, made sure he can get a high pick. Didn't work out for him, but he still got a top team, and that's going to be our fearless leader, Alex G, with the 12th overall selection against the Kansas City Chiefs. Connor, your thoughts?
How the defending Super Bowl champion fell to Alex at number 12 is beyond me. This is just like when the Patriots fell to Morty at something like the 23 spot a couple ladders ago, but we will roll with it. With this roster, Alex is an instant Super Bowl contender. I mean, the Mahomes contract is going to be, a bit of a problem, obviously, not like he's the highest paid,
If Madden
athlete
gets
in
it
history
right.
or anything. If Madden gets it right, which is a big question, but so he's going to have to take losses elsewhere in that roster, but I have faith in him to make it work. Of course, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, that is an absolutely lethal 1-2-3 punch in the passing game that he can use to terrorize opposing secondaries, And it's interesting, after having had such a long rivalry with Chase, who was the Chiefs in Madden 20, now Alex switching teams to his rival. He will be the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So I'll say it once again, Alex, an instant Super Bowl contender, in my opinion, with this Kansas City Chiefs roster.
Yeah, again, I'm trying my best not to comment division talk here. Yeah, this is surprising to me. It's surprising me that a lot more people didn't have the Chiefs higher up on their list. And then it's surprising to me in some ways. I mean, I guess when you're Alex, you kind of have to at a certain point be like, okay, the Chiefs got to be up there because like you were saying, like we all know, they're the former Super Bowl champions, so you can't put them at 20 or something like that. Then you look like a dingus. But so it's interesting, like you said, he goes from the Chargers to playing his rival Chase and the Chiefs to switching over to the Chiefs and gets maybe the best roster in the NFL and in Madden in terms of just playmakers.
Chad is a little shocked that Kansas City fell this far. And I think the most shocked would be Alex himself.
I mean, that's what's exciting about this. Things shake down. People go after their favorite teams, and stuff happens. This is why this new format is great, and why lottery and all this stuff is great in my opinion.
So, moving on to the Chargers. A lot of people. I mean, people just keep throwing Dan's name on every team. I think it's hilarious.
Right? He was 3, and we still,
Yeah, we still haven't mentioned his name yet. We'll see. Maybe it's coming up right now. It's not. You actually mentioned his name, Cody, which ironically, he was the Chiefs' last Madden, and now he'll still have the monkey on his back. And that would be Chase with the 18th pick. Gets the Los Angeles Chargers. How they fell to 18, I don't know. Connor, your thoughts?
The rivalry is reborn, ladies and gentlemen. You had Alex's Chargers versus Chase's Chiefs in Madden 20, and now you have Alex's Chiefs versus Chase's Chargers in Madden 21. Time is a flat circle, isn't it? I absolutely love this team and user fit from Chase's perspective. Obviously, a very solid rookie quarterback in Justin Herbert, a lethal pass rush that Alex was able to use. Good, if I know, Cody, it's wild. An absolutely lethal pass rush, headlined, of course, by Joey Bosa, who is going to be just an absolutely dominant pass rusher for the entire cycle. Decent wide receiving core, and most importantly, from Chase's perspective, cap space for days. The man is going to be able to build whatever unit he wants to into an absolute weapon. I'll just go back to what the obvious storyline is here, man. The Alex Chase rivalry is reborn, and I don't want to overshadow Phil versus Morty, but what a twist of fate this is, man. I'm really excited to see this.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it brief because I think all my comments are going to come later. But I'm shook. And this is no disrespect to Chase. I'm not trying to cut you off here, Chase, and not give you a full spiel like I've been giving everyone else, but I'm just literally shook right now. I'm shook that they flipped teams. I'm shook for very obvious other reasons, and I'm also excited because this is insane. This is insane.
Chat is absolutely lit up. They filled up my page in 3 seconds. They are so excited. Just nothing but good reviews of this selection. Let's talk about the team, though. For him to get the Chargers at the 18th pick is astounding.
Yeah, that's a snipe.
Yeah, Chargers are my 3rd overall team. I love that team. So very good for Chase to get them. Don't want to talk too much about the division here, but this is a very good one. Maybe the best. We'll find out. But that ends it for the AFC.
I actually can't wait to talk about divisions.
Yeah.
But
same.
That ends it for the AFC. We're moving on to the NFC. NFC East to start it off first. A lot of people are already saying the NFC's weak as hell. I appreciate it. Although the name they keep throwing out there, Mr. Dan, has not been taken yet. Maybe he's in this division. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, there's some people. There's some people out there.
with this next pick with the New York Giants, if you could just put your right hands over your heart for this person who has served in our country, that would be Mr. Austin with the 25th pick gets the New York Football Giants. Connor, your thoughts?
This is going to have to be the Saquon Barkley show from Austin's perspective. I mean, the entire rest of the roster, honestly, is pretty nondescript. They have fewer star defenders, in my opinion, than, almost anyone in the league. It's just not a particularly impressive defense in any phase there. And then their wide receiving core, their two main wide receivers of Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard, not only are they old, but I don't think their skill sets are really going to translate in Madden whatsoever. I think it's going to be perhaps a worse wide receiving core than their overalls might indicate. It's going to be interesting from Austin's perspective. I mean, I know, when he was at his peak in this league, it was mostly with him as the Texans using, Deshaun Watson, that escape artist cheese. I'm never going to let that die. But it's an interesting team fit, I should say, here for military Austin. Once again, shout out to the heroes. But I'm just interested to see how this goes. It's going to be a tough rebuild, but I think Austin potentially has what it takes. We'll see what happens then.
Yes, I have one thought, really, and that's, and it kind of is dependent on how Austin plays. Being that obviously I'm very familiar with that Giants roster, there's two routes that I think this will go. Either he will not play good, and he'll have the opportunity to grow that roster through draft picks, or in the route that maybe I took, I guess, if you play well, there are pieces on that roster that you can build up. You're gonna have to make some trades. You're gonna have to hit on some draft picks. It's not an easy rebuild by any means. And I would assume Madden is going to not absolutely destroy friggin'. Wow, I'm blanking right now because all I can think about is Warren McBride and Sam Darnold. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, because I think he started in the sub 60s in Madden 20, and I'm assuming he will be much better, or at least a little better than that. And so it's not a horrible roster, like you said. It's got to be Saquon show, and really just kind of is he gonna end up with some high draft picks to build that team, or is he gonna ball out and build it via gaining experience, I guess.
Chat not quite as lit as the last team reveal. They're mostly still talking about the AFC. Some of them saying, one in particular user, Lucky Charms, says that I don't care who's in my division at this point. I'm just glad I'm not in the AFC. So most people talking about the AFC being lit. Let's go ahead and move forward. Austin, our hero, with the Giants.
Now, seeing myself in the AFC, everyone wants to go to the NFC. I guess.
It's gotta be it.
Facts.
Of course.
Next user, a fan favorite, somebody who won the game of the century, and that would be Mr. Taint/Dealing Debts with the 16th pick, getting the Dallas Cowboys. Connor, your thoughts?
Once again, a little surprised the Cowboys fell this far, especially given, there are quite a few Cowboys fans in the league, but here Taint is with his Dallas Cowboys number 16. He is going to have to... The only modicum of success he found with Carolina Panthers this last cycle was when he went extremely run-heavy with Shedrick Short, and in my opinion, he's going to have to do that over again with Ezekiel Elliott. Of course, Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best running backs in the league. He will be very easy to build up to an absolute weapon, if Taint's able to do so, if he knows even an iota about team building, but... I think that's what mainly was going to have to do offensively, despite the fact that, of course, he has two very strong rookie wide receivers in CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs. We have seen Taint's passing capabilities. They are zilch, they are zero. I would recommend going very run-heavy if I were Taint. Beyond that, in terms of defense, definitely not a bad defense, but I have them about average in all capacities. Nothing really stands out as a strength or a huge weakness necessarily in this defense, so you can work with that if you're Taint. I would just really recommend, once again, I've said it so many times on my podcast, go conservative, go run heavy. You have Ezekiel Elliott. Please feed that man.
Yeah, I'm Team Taint, always Team Taint, just like I'm always Team Cam. I'm excited for him. This is, it's a fun roster to work with. You've got a whole lot of weapons on both sides of the ball, and so should be fun for him. I'm excited to see what he does. And what's also interesting, I guess, a little nugget is you had, Taint's at 16, Chase was at 18 and 20, and King was at 20. So you had two Cowboys fans that were very close to probably getting their Cowboys, but Taint swooped in and snagged them.
Chat, very excited for this Taint pick. Taint, like I said, is a fan favorite. Taint, very excited with this pick. I think he's saying that was his number 2 team. I don't remember off the top of my head, so I guess he's very excited for getting this team, very good team to get at 16, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of talent on that defense and that great offensive line, and Zeke Elliott. Obviously, Dak Prescott's pretty good. Mari Cooper, great team for Taint. Hopefully, let's see, he does pretty well. Some people saying Taint will represent the NFC every year in the Super Bowl because it's so bad. We'll see. Let's move on to the currently are the Washington Redskins. We'll see if that name changes. But the user that is going to use this team is none other than Cook, who took them with the 7th overall selection. Cook with the Redskins. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Cook as a user is living proof that, as a league, we've come so far from Madden 17. He used to be one of the most competitive users in the league. Never won a Super Bowl, but he was consistently in the playoff hunt, consistently in the top 2 seed hunt, honestly, as a regular season user. But I think his fall from grace has shown that the league's kind of past users like Cook and maybe myself by, we'll see. I do think that within this division, I think this is the best day 1 roster of the 4, especially because Chase Young, of course, is going to wreak havoc for the entire cycle. You have Montez Sweat, also a very strong defensive end. You have Matt Ioannidis as the defensive tackle. And then you have, of course, Dwayne Haskins and Darius Geis, both of whom are workable. And Darius Geis is honestly should be a very strong running back if Madden doesn't do him dirty. It's just, I don't really think the roster is necessarily the issue here. It's just, does Cook have what it takes on the sticks? We'll just have to see. I don't know the answer to that. Will Prime Cook come back, or will he continue to languish, in the bottom 5 of the league? I don't know. I hope for his sake he is able to make kind of a belated playoff run here, but we'll see.
Yeah, Cook, however you say it. I've always said Kook, but yeah, I think this is a great pick. Redskins, in terms of a Madden roster, I think are a lot of fun. Not obviously Dwayne Haskins hasn't shown like a ton, but it's still a young quarterback that you can do what you want with. In terms of Madden, you have obviously a lot of talent on that defense. They've got Scary Terry, who's got some wheels, and yeah, I think this is the fun roster. Kook has shown that he can be competitive. So yeah, let's see how he does on the sticks.
A lot of reaction in chat that this isn't the best division they've ever seen. So I'll chill with the division talk till we get to the end. Damn.
It's not quite the Phil, Morty, Chase, Alex division. Is that what
not quite. This is a step down from the last division. Although this last user is pretty good. He's won a lot of Super Bowls, especially recently. Just kidding. It's not him yet. This is actually Mr. Ryan with the 19th selection. He called it Philadelphia Eagles. Ryan, Connor, your thoughts?
Great division here, guys. This is not quite Patriots level old, but this is an old roster according to, again, the snap weighted age metric I use. This is the 3rd oldest offense and 4th oldest defense in the league. Again, that's according to snap weighted age. I don't know if Jalen Hurts, I don't know if they're going to give him like workable accuracy stats. Like, I don't even know if he's going to be like a devable quarterback in terms of, how especially a pass first user wants to use him. So it may just have to be Carson Wentz moving forward. I'm not really sure. And then, of course, you have defensive stars like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, both of whom are, very, very solid, obviously. But they're getting old. Brandon Graham, especially, I believe he's 33 years old, and then Fletcher Cox is about to hit 30. So regression is going to be a problem early. This is going to be an instant rebuilding project here, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Ryan's going to have to be in this for the long haul from the team building perspective, and I don't know if he has what it takes from that perspective. I'm not sure I've ever seen Ryan play a game, so I don't know how good he is. His results don't indicate much, but we'll see how it goes. This not to telegraph too much, but I think all 4 of these users should be feeling excited about their playoff chances.
Yeah, my boy Looney Kuh already saying Wentz on the block. Yeah, obviously, there's, the Eagles are a solid roster. They just got Jalen Hurts, so it looks like maybe Ryan's excited to kind of start the Jalen Hurts project. So yeah, I think this is, I think you got to be happy getting the Eagles at 19. Definitely an older team, but still a team that you can go out and compete with, and you can kind of, once some of those older guys, retire, or you decide not to sign them, you can then start to kind of mold the team in the direction you want to mold them.
probably the best. Chad's kind of, after seeing this last name, still talking division talk, but my favorite comment being that somebody saying Taint might actually represent a division in the playoffs come Madden 21, and I hope he does.
Have the division talk. Don't worry.
I hope he does. We'll get there. Let's move on to the next division though, and that is the NFC North. Starting off with the Detroit Lions, and with the Detroit Lions, poor guy, man, he dropped, I think, probably one of the biggest drops in the lottery, which is Mr. Fern. With the 31st pick, gets the Detroit Lions. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he got the last pick of anyone not named Ocho, so yeah, he dropped about as far as it gets there. Obviously, one of the best regular season users of Madden 20, but that did not necessarily translate to playoff performance in Cleveland last year. He's too good of a regular season user, in my opinion. Like, I've played him twice at this point. He destroyed me both times, I'll be honest with you. He's too good of a user to have had as little playoff success as he has. And I say that to say, like, I don't know if this Lions roster is necessarily going to be the one to carry them over the hump. I mean, they have lots of cap space. That's like the one true benefit you can say. Matthew Stafford, is still going to have a cannon of an arm, even though he's, approaching old age here. But their wide receivers, their really entire defense, it's just pretty average. I don't know. And as I said, Stafford's not getting any younger, so he's going to have to make team building moves, but just from a pure stick skills perspective, he is as capable a user as any. And not to say like who else is in the division, but no matter who else is in the division, I would be very scared of Fern if I were them, especially in the regular season, because he got the top 2 seed pretty consistently in the AFC this last year.
Yeah, this is admittedly so. I know maybe nothing about this roster. I know they've got pieces. Kenny Galladay, obviously. They have Frank Ragnow, that I think is one of the better centers in the league.
Jeff Okudah.
Obviously, they drafted DeAndre Swift. They drafted Jeff Okudah. So there's some really nice pieces there. It's definitely a rebuild project, but with a good user. And Fern showed, Ryan, I think is a solid user, but obviously, a lot of people might have their thoughts on that, being that he inherited Jared's team. But I think he's a solid user on the sticks, and obviously it's not a great roster, but I think there's some good things to look forward to on this roster.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that had late picks are really excited. They're like, yay, I'm not the Lions. So, I mean, this is a team other than the Jets that I think a lot of people were trying to avoid. So, Fern says he'll welcome let me get his, he says, give me the Lions, baby, I'm all in. So, I think he's pretty excited about getting this team. But let's move on to the team up in Minnesota. With the Minnesota Vikings, we've got a team that a user that I'm not very familiar with, and that's Mr. Slander, with the 24th overall selection, getting the Minnesota Vikings. Connor, your thoughts?
This is less of a roster question and more of a question of how locked in Slander is. We have seen him, join and leave the league multiple times. When he is fully devoted, when he's fully locked in, he is as good of a user as anyone. And yes, I include users like Dan in that category. Slander, in my opinion, is at that level. The question is, does he care? Like, will he be locked in? Just talk briefly about the roster here, even though I think, what I just said is sort of the overriding question here. The defensive base is very solid, and of course you have Dalvin Cook, one of the best young running backs in the league, which makes this Vikings roster instantly competitive. I'm not really sure if the 1-2 duo of Thielen and Rudolph, of course, star wide receiver and tight end, I'm not necessarily sure if their skill sets will translate to Madden all that much. Not a lot of speed, but because of that, I'm expecting to see a ground first attack by Slander. Again, it's just a matter of, is he locked in or not? We'll just have to see moving forward.
Yeah, I'll keep my thoughts brief here, because I agree. Like, for example, I could be wrong, and he could type in the Twitch chat or something, but I don't even think he's watching the show right now.
Nope.
And so it's like, are you here? Are you locked in? Are you just joining because you want to play Madden for the first month and then leave the league? And if so, that will not do well for his own
reputation.
What'd you say?
Reputation.
Yeah, his own reputation in terms of within the better league, because if he plays a season or two and then just leaves again, it's going to be all right, well, no more of that. So if he's locked in though, to Connor's point, if he's locked in, he's a top tier user. So is he locked in? That's my thought.
Nothing worse than a user that joins and leaves multiple times. Am I right? Anyways, moving on. Slander as the Minnesota Vikings. All right, moving on to the Chicago Bears. I've seen in chat, and most people have agreed with you guys that most people don't see Slander lasting past the first season. So let's see if he's able to do that. I've seen a couple users talking about it's Alex and I think Cam that are Bears fans have talked about who's going to trade for more Bears, either Cam or Alex. Well, welcome to my DMs because CMass with the 29th pick gets the Chicago Bears. Thank you all for letting them fall. I'm pretty happy with it. Connor, your thoughts?
I'm going to keep my analysis brief on this one because CMass, I think you should carry this one since it's your team. This is an all-defense team. They still have perhaps the most lethal day one defense in the entire league, to be honest with you. Just, I mean, defensive pieces aplenty, and that is something that you will be able to work with for the majority of the cycle. Starting to get, some of the pieces starting to get a little bit older, but assuming they have superstar dev, they shouldn't regress too quickly, so that's a defensive base that you'll be able to work with for almost the remainder of the cycle, in my opinion. On offense, do you start Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky? What's your cap situation going to be there? Do you re-sign Mitch Trubisky or do you go after, potentially rookie quarterback or try to trade for someone? There are a lot of decisions to be made that you're just going to have to figure out CMass on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm excited to see how you rebuild it. I know, of course, from a stick skills perspective, I know you're as capable a user as any. You can be competitive in, pretty much any division we put you in. So it's just a matter of how will you build the offense and what is your, I guess, long-term vision for this Bears team moving forward? Foles, Trubisky, or a rookie quarterback that we don't know of yet. I'm very excited to see.
For sure. I'll keep my thoughts brief too, so you can speak to your team here. As I said pre-show, I'm kind of out on this roster, but it's like an escape room type of puzzle piece that you have to figure out. I feel like in terms of just the contracts and the weapons and there's some weapons and then there's it's a good defense but it's an older defense and so it's, to me, I'm not surprised they fell to 29, but it sounds like you're pretty happy that they fell to 29. So yeah,
I'm good for 29. I was like everybody else. I'm worried about getting the Lions. I'm worried about getting the Jets, teams like that. For somebody like the Bears that already has, I know there's a lot of problems that come with this team, but there's also a lot of solutions as well. With the defense having players now, they might be a little bit closer to the end of their careers, but players like Khalil Mack and players like drawing a blank defensive tackle. But anyways, Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson, Roquan Smith. I mean, I've got my user set. So the defense is set, which is usually, my biggest worry is finding a CPU defense for me. Offensively, they need some work. Quarterback needs some work. So we'll see how it goes. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Thank you for players not taking the Bears, and Alex and Cam, feel free to come into my DMs for trades because I'm not loyal to any of these players. Let's move on to the Green Bay Packers, the last team in this division. I see some responses in chat. Slander will win year one, then CMass after Slander quits. Ouch. That's from Ocho.
Sheesh.
Yeah. That was
love for Fern. Dang, that's harsh.
Yeah, no love for Fern. I think people are kind of thrown off because he took over a team that wasn't his, which is the same situation as me. But anyways, Packers, moving on. Mike with the 26th pick gets the Green Bay Packers. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, good thing Mike has a lot of heart, man, and good thing he has Dan to help him out / potentially, take over on the 6 every once in a while, because this is a rough division and a rough situation for him to find himself in. I didn't write any roster analysis down. This is the only team that I didn't do anything for. I'm just excited to see what has been a Hall of Fame career, a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers get completely ruined and decimated. I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers' legacy just get crumpled up and thrown into the trash heap by this man, Mike Reno. And I'm excited to see how many interceptions Rodgers throws. This division's a bit too much for him, I'll be honest. Not to telegraph my predictions too much, but y'all are blind if you don't see that, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm I've said I'm Team Cam, I'm Team Taint, I'm also Team Mike. And I love his heart. I love how excited he is for Madden 21. He's grinded and it's not to say that Mike obviously is, I was in his division and I, handled him pretty easily most games. But at the same time, he took multiple users to the ringer. He almost beat Alex. He almost beat Chase. And so, if he keeps grinding, this is a roster that you can build, you can have fun with. You obviously have Aaron Rodgers. You have Aaron Jones, and it looks like Ocho says Mike loves Jordan, so maybe he tries to get a king's ransom for Rodgers from a user, and then starts Love and starts the rebuild or something like that. But I'm excited for him. Obviously, Fern's one of his friends as well. Being Rhode Island boys, so that'll be fun for Mike. I'm excited for that.
Ocho says that Mike will finish third in the division every year, and to quote him on that, I'm not sure who's going to be fourth.
I think he's talking about the Slanders from their CPU team.
Maybe. Yeah.
I said the Slanders, the Vikings, whatever.
I'm more worried about who takes over for Slander when he leaves. So we'll see.
Yeah, honestly.
Let's move on to the NFC South. Starting off with the Atlanta Falcons, a team that'll be taken over by the perennial top 5 pick, Mr. Nick, with the 22nd overall selection. Gets the Atlanta Falcons. Connor, your thoughts?
Well, this was without question the best front-to-back division in the league in Madden 20, and we're not off to the best start here, I'll be honest with you. I really like this Falcons roster. I mean, yeah,
Same.
I speak more intelligently about it than I can. Julio and Todd Gurley will carry Nick to a couple of wins every year, and their front seven is truly lethal. I mean, if I don't have the number, or excuse me, I don't take a look at the Falcons front seven. A lot of pieces to work with from Nick's perspective. Will that be enough for Nick to compete in the NFC South? Who knows? Again, Nick is another one of those users I really can't speak intelligently on. I don't know anything about him, but he's the Atlanta Falcons, solid roster, young pieces. Will he be able to dev them, and will he be able to build? I don't know. We'll see. A whole lot of I don't knows coming from me.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I think, getting the Falcons at 22, you got to be happy. Solid roster, some high caliber offensive players, some tools and some superstars in defense. So, I think Nick's got to be happy. And yeah, we just got to see, how he can grind out, how he can ball out in terms of on the sticks.
Almost no response of this in chat. Mostly everybody talking about trying to guess where everybody else is going. So I guess not a lot of people worried about this team. Good roster, cap hell is basically the situation for the Falcons.
Yeah, and that might be more so. Nick's not a guy that's going to sit and slack all day, but he's going to play, or he's proven he's going to play all of his games. And so it's not like he's inactive in terms of the league. He's just, people don't really know a ton about him because he's not, just typing in the Slack like most of us are.
Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, this user was very happy. He was very upset that he was got a late pick, but he didn't get the Lions, so he should be happy with this pick, and that'd be Mr. Steele with the 28th selection. Got the Carolina Panthers. Connor, your thoughts?
Well, Steele's just perpetually upset about almost everything, so it kind of makes sense that he would have been complaining about that too. The fact that they dropped to 28, I don't think this is as bad of a roster necessarily as it seems like the league consensus was. You've the rookie defensive tackle Derek Brown from Auburn, going to be an absolute monster. You have Brian Burns, one of the fastest linebackers in the league. You can dev them up. But, he's going to need more star talent. Of course, he has CMC on the offensive side of the ball. But I just don't know, user Steele's quality, being able to dev everyone. I don't know if he has what it takes yet. Because, CMC is going to get his. He does have the second youngest defense in the league. That's going to be pretty easy to keep together, pretty easy to dev. But there are other, glaring holes in this Carolina Panthers roster. So that's just something that Steele's going to have to figure out.
Yeah, my thought on this is I think that if this team went to a below average user, then it would be a real problem. But I think with Steele being a competent, good, definitely above average user, he's gonna be able to build this team up, do with it what he wants. There's obviously some speed. They just picked up Robbie Anderson, right, in free agency or whatever it may be. And so, I guess it'll kind of depend on what Madden, which we will find out tomorrow, rates Teddy Bridgewater. If he wants to run with Teddy Bridgewater, does he want to ditch him and see what he can do with Will Greer? Does he want to go with PJ Walker? Isn't that the guy that was in the XFL? So there's some fun you could have this roster, and being that Steele's a competent, above average good user. Somebody that can make the playoffs for sure. I think he should be happy.
Steele not happy in chat, shocker. With a little crying emoji and a damn it. And then shout out to Morty for the gifted sub. Thank you, Morty, for the gifted sub, which was given to FootRubber1916. Thank you very much, Morty, for the gifted sub. Let's move on to the New Orleans Saints, which was Ben and I's number 32 pick. A lot of people have talked about a certain user. Not a single person has guessed that he would take the Saints. Well, guess what? The multiple Super Bowl winner Dan has selected the New Orleans Saints with the third overall pick. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was wondering when the Dan bomb was going to drop on the NFC, and here we are. This is a very solid roster for Dan to take over moving forward here. I have the wrong page up. There we go. As I said, the perfect base for him to win rings with. I'm shook, y'all. I apologize. Drew Brees is still going to be elite for, 1 or 2 more seasons, however long until he retires, and then the rebuilding project at quarterback will start, but I don't think that's going to be a problem from Dan's perspective. Alvin Kamara, strong basis for the ground game. Of course, Michael Thomas, probably the best receiver in the league. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, CMass, don't worry. But he is going to be a superstar, and the defense in general quite solid. A bit old, but quite solid in all capacities. So I don't think there's going to be any I don't think there's any need to overcomplicate my analysis here. The best user in Madden 20 pairs up with one of the best rosters, presumably in Madden 21. So it's the rest of the NFC should be very shook right now because this is not good if you're trying to compete for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Dan, obviously an elite user, proved that multiple times in multiple different Maddens. And Dan is also a fan of the RPG, if you will, of CFM. And so I think he's probably chomping at the bit. He's licking his chops here. Because, you get Drew Brees, who maybe you get a season, 2 seasons, if you're lucky, I guess, more out of him, a very good quarterback. But if he does retire, then Dan would want nothing more than to go draft a quarterback and start the legacy of a guy that, you'll hear his name in the chat, just like you heard Maurice Little and all these guys, that were on the Jaguars. But I think he's licking his chops here with the opportunity to kind of, when Brees retires, to draft a quarterback and continue and start a new legacy.
Chat's kind of surprised. I don't think a lot of people thought he'd take Saints. A lot of people kind of shocked and wondering why he took the Saints. I think Connor touched on it pretty good. They had a good roster. Some people saying that this officially makes it Dan thinks that Drew Brees is better than Tom Brady.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's, you put 2 and 2 together. Damn dogs, shut up.
I was wondering.
Yeah. So, moving on to the last team, and actually Chase said, I'll trade the Chargers for the Bucks right now. Somebody else saying whoever gets the Bucks is trying to switch teams tonight. So, that team that could potentially do that, which I don't think is an option in this league, but whatever.
Nope.
Sorry, it sucks for you. It's going to be Wozy with the 10th pick, takes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Connor, your thoughts?
I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3rd in my list, only behind the Browns and Bengals. I think this has a potential to be a truly special roster, especially my limited experience in the Madden 21 beta. I played primarily, with the Buccaneers, and I absolutely love this roster. They have an incredible receiving core, of course. Mike Evans, Godwin, the 2 tight end sets with Gronkowski and OJ Howard. I mean, that is depth and an absolute lethal receiving core right there. That's something that Wozy will be able to use. Tom Brady, I'm assuming they'll still give him plenty of superstar abilities. I'm assuming they won't, disrespect him too much in terms of the rankings or the ratings, even though he looked kind of old and feeble against the Titans in the wildcard round, but that's a separate issue. Their defense is young. They have a very young defense. They have star pieces such as Vita Vea, and Ronald Jones is going to be a solid halfback, a solid young running back for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So I don't really have too many complaints in terms of this Bucs team. I really liked them. Again, I had them 3rd. Will Wozy be the user to bring them together, or to bring them to glory, I should say? I've always said I think Wozy has one elite season a year in him, and then he just falls off. So we'll have to see when that elite season comes. Will it be early, or will it be much like this time? Will it be the final season of the cycle? We'll have to see. But I mean, Dan, I'm sure has to be feeling pretty good about things right now.
Yeah, Wozy's a guy that obviously proved he can go out and beat good users. This is a stacked roster. So I'd be excited if I was him. There's a lot of fun you can do there. You got Brady, then you can move on, draft a quarterback, trade for a quarterback, whatever you want to do. This is a fun Madden roster, in my opinion. So yeah, excited for Woj and what he can do, and if he can prove that he is is he the 8-8 Woj that we know and love, or is he better than that?
Most responses in chat being that this is Dan's division to win, which of course they're talking about division stuff already. They can't help it. They can't help it.
Everyone talking about the next
one. Yeah,
the last one.
So let's go ahead and jump to the NFC West. Most everybody knows who the users are. Let's go ahead and pair them up with the teams.
So where are their teams?
Who took who and where with the 49ers will be Mr. Ben Jammin. With the 5th overall pick, Ben took the San Francisco 49ers. Connor, your thoughts?
I mean, this is a young and dangerous team. They will be given a lot of respect by the Madden ratings, I'm sure, due to the fact that they just made the Super Bowl. I believe, with the possible exception of the Bears, I believe that the 49ers are going to have the single best Season 1 Madden defense in the entire league in Madden 21. And this is the perfect user. Of course, Ben, Super Bowl champion, made the Super Bowl this last season. This is the perfect user to take them over. You have Bosa, Warner, and Armstead in the front seven, and then, of course, Richard Sherman and Ward in the secondary. This is a very strong defense, and, of course, Garoppolo is going to be solid. The wide receiving core, not explosive necessarily, but decent. And when you pair a Super Bowl champion, it's just like I said with Dan and the Saints, like when you pair a Super Bowl champion with this type of roster, it spells danger for the rest of the league. It's like, again, the rest of the NFC, much like they should be with Dan and the Saints, because they should be very worried about the fact that Ben has the 49ers, because this is a young, devable roster, and I think that Ben will have them in Super Bowl quality in no time.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, I think we saw, Madden 20, Ben definitely thrives off having a really quality defense, and that's what the 49ers have. I feel like a Ben roster, a Ben team is always tough for me to comment on, because odds are he's already DMing half of the league right now, like asking if they want Deebo Samuel or if they want Nick Bosa, and he wants 3 first-round picks and Aaron Rodgers and all, and whatever. So we all know Ben is king of trades and doing with the team what he wants to do, and so sorry, choked there on air.
No worries.
So I mean, and it's not a knock on Ben. I don't hear me saying that's a knock on Ben, because Ben is, in my opinion, the best team builder in the league. And so I'm interested to see what he does with this roster, being that there is a lot of youth, and there is, you can just kind of just start with this roster and use them and play them. Or is he going to try to make some moves like we know Ben has done, at basically every Madden?
A lot of people shocked that Ben did not take Cardinals with the escape artist Kyler Murray. But I think for the reasons that you have already said, this young defense, he just couldn't pass up. So Ben with the 49ers, who did take the Cardinals. I see that Cloud in chat has said over and over again that he's Cardinals, and now has gotten to the point where he says, I will give $1 million if I am not Cardinals. Well, prepare to get my Venmo. Yeah, prepare to get my Venmo, sir, because you aren't paying anybody, because you are the Cardinals. Cloud with the 11th overall pick takes the Cardinals. Connor, your thoughts?
Much like Phil returning to Denver, Cloud goes back to where he had the most success as a Madden user. We know how lethal his Madden 17 Arizona Cardinals were. I still have nightmares about Derrick Henry trucking, pretty much my entire Seahawks secondary every season. But that's the past. We're talking about the present. I wasn't, the league consensus on this roster was very, very high. I think they were like the second highest average pick, which in a weird way, the fact that they dropped to 11 is kind of weird, but I think they were the second highest average position in people's list. I'm not quite that high on the list, but there's no denying, of course, Kyler Murray is going to be an incredible quarterback, escape artist, etc. You mentioned all the abilities he's going to have. Isaiah Simmons, one of the most exciting rookies in the league. He will boost what is, it should be said, a pretty old front seven. Just as a general user, Cloud, still very solid, still very competitive against even the best, but he has not shown in Madden's 19 and 20, he has not shown the consistency that he had earlier in his better league career. I mean, he used to be, a Super Bowl favorite damn near every season, but now he's kind of forgotten about. Now he's kind of, a wild card contender at best in terms of how people perceive him. So I love Cloud. I want Cloud to get back to Super Bowl contention. It'd be nice to kind of like shake things up. I don't want to see Dan make 5 more Super Bowls in a row. No disrespect to Dan specifically, but like that's just like not good for the league necessarily. So I think it's as good a fit as any, and I'm excited to see what Cloud's able to do. Just, don't hike and haul, because if anyone's going to call the yacht on it, it is Alex.
Yeah, I think the thing that's most interesting to me about this Cardinals offense is, yes, it's stacked, but at the same time, you've got some youth on there that is getting clogged up by some older guys. So obviously, you maybe have a season out of Fitzgerald. I mean, Hopkins isn't, ancient, but he's not a rookie. I think he's 28. And then obviously you got Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella. And we know Cloud likes to throw the ball, so maybe that's not horrible. I'm pretty sure the O-line is not great. And we know, obviously, and we don't know how Madden 2021 plays completely yet, but obviously Cloud was one that was very frustrated at times with how little time he had in Madden 20, and he's getting obviously a not great O-line, but it's a good roster, obviously, and so I'm excited to see what Cloud does. I think he'll be able to ball out. And yeah, I don't know. I guess if it was me, I would look at maybe trying to like ship off Larry Fitzgerald for like a young buildable player or something like that, just so you can get Andy Isabella in the starting 3 wide receivers.
Chat, not really surprised by this pick. I think a lot of people saw this one coming once Ben took the 49ers. So excited for Cloud to get such a good quarterback. I had Kyler Murray for a season. I enjoyed it. I'm so mad my girl put my dogs in here. Anyways, LA Rams, moving on. The LA Rams will be usered by King with 2 eyes, who with the 20th overall selection gets these LA Rams. Connor, your thoughts?
This is a really, in terms of like bad team fits, in terms of very solid users like King, this kind of sticks out to me as one that I don't necessarily understand from King's perspective. Of course, Aaron Donald's going to continue to wreak havoc. He's going to continue to be one of the very best defenders in any position in the entire league, despite the fact that he's getting up there in age. I do expect him to start rookie halfback Cam Akers, especially depending on his attributes, which I guess we'll find out about tomorrow. But I think Cam Akers is going to be good enough where he could potentially be devved, or of course we may see King just trade for 3 superstar running backs again. Which actually kind of goes to my next point. Like with the Vikings last cycle, I should say, he was able to afford to trade for 3 superstar running backs without necessarily suffering a whole lot of losses in other areas. He straight up cannot do that with his LA Rams team. This team their cap situation is atrocious, and it's just like not good from a team building perspective. They don't necessarily have a ton of like super young talent. Like they have talent. They're a talented roster, don't get me wrong, but it's not really something you can dev and really like prioritize to, kind of hit the later cycle, really sort of exploit that. It's just something that King's going to have to figure out. So he can't afford to just, trade for every good running back in the league this time. He's going to have a more holistic approach to his team building approach. And I mean, King's done it before, I'm not going to like disrespect him as a user. He's definitely shown that he can do that, but it's going to be a change compared to what we saw in Minnesota this past cycle.
Yeah, I think my take here was, I think outside of Ben, you might see King as the maybe second person who you might see the most active in trades. Being that this team is kind of in cap handcuff, being that he's not someone that has cared super much about throwing the ball, and so Goff's on a big contract, right? So depending on how they rate Goff, you might try to trade Goff and do something else, or I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see what King does with this roster, because I don't think, at least from talking to King, I'm pretty sure his focus was like his top 10 team. I don't know where the Rams fell on his list, but I know he wanted the Cowboys, and if he didn't get the Cowboys, he was sad. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, just to kind of see what he does with this roster, knowing how he plays.
King had the Rams 9th on his list.
Okay.
I was actually petrified how late I was that I was going to get stuck with the Rams, because they're a roster that, while they have Cam Akers, who everybody's really hyped about in the chat because I guess King's really good at running the ball, that he's going to be able to dev him pretty well. But the fact that most of their tradable players like Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Goff maybe are all cap hits that are ridiculous. So it's just something that you can't really trade good players to get better players.
That's true.
But by process of elimination, you should be able to figure out that the last person is Mr. Lucky, who got his Seahawks the 17th overall pick. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, so this was Lucky's number one team. Obviously, the only Seahawks fan in here other than myself. Go Hawks. He's going to have to immediately answer for still a really bad O-line despite years of, retooling and rebuilding by John Schneider and Pete Carroll. It's still bad. An aging front seven, we have Bobby Wagner with KJ Wright. They are getting up there in age, and the depth kind of falls off after that. And honestly, the rookie class really did them no favors. Not much rookie talent in Seattle. I don't expect Madden to really, show our first rounder or second rounder much respect because, both of them are perceived as stretches. So, this is not a bad roster. I mean, this is one thing that's kind of overlooked in real life is how much Russell Wilson carried what really is not a playoff roster in the Seattle Seahawks to the playoffs these past couple of years. It was pretty much a one-man show from Russell's perspective. And of course, now we have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Not to get too much into the IRL Seahawks because that's not what we're talking about, but there are glaring holes here that Lucky's going to have to address. As far as this overall division goes, we've seen Lucky have success against Ben recently. He's either kept it very close or won against them the last couple seasons. So it's not like he should be necessarily quaking in fear against this Santa Clara team necessarily, but he may have to be in it for the long haul in terms of rebuilding because again, this is a team that has holes. This is a team that Lucky's going to have to kind of figure out long term here moving forward.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to my thought of what I've said for a couple guys is it's always exciting when you get the team you're a fan of. You feel a little bit more passionate about it. Maybe you feel a little bit more fired up, a little bit more competitive. Will be interesting to see. I know for me personally, it's always hard to, which is slightly maybe a reason why I almost didn't want to have the Bengals high on my list is it's hard to kind of cut ties with guys because you're like, but I love them so much. So it'll be interesting to see what Lucky does to that roster because it definitely needs a little bit of help, but definitely has talent all around, or is sprinkled throughout. And so happy for Lucky, happy for him to get his favorite team. And yeah.
So that sums it up for the team reveals. Let's go ahead and we'll move on to the slide that shows every single division. And now's the time we can actually talk division. Feel free in chat to talk about these divisions. Who's got the cupcake divisions? Who's got the nightmare divisions? And then just to show you every team that has a little asterisk at the end by their name, that's a former Better League Super Bowl champion. So just to give you an idea of the divisions that are stacked with Super Bowl winners. Let's just go ahead and jump to you guys, and I'll ask you, and you can go ahead and give me your answer. That's how this is going to work. Weird, right? Let's start off with Connor. Connor, we're going to start off with the cupcake division. Which division or divisions do you think are the cupcake or the easiest divisions for Madden 21?
I mean, the NFC East right now is in a league of their own. You have, Austin's Giants, Cook's Redskins, Taint's Cowboys, and Ryan's Eagles. This is the first time in a while where I can, none of those users have had even, a modicum, really, of success in the Better League. Austin had, a good half season at one point, and of course, Cook was good back in Madden 17, but that was a long time ago. But this just, on paper, this is a really, really bad division. And honestly, if I were any of these four users, yes, including Taint, yes, including Ryan, I would be, kind of licking my chops right now because I don't think any of these four guys really had any true playoff aspirations in Madden 20. Now with this division, all of them have the potential to get the 4 seed and then just get absolutely mauled by the 5 seed, but that doesn't matter. At least made the playoffs at that point. So I would say the NFC East, and then the NFC East is on their own tier of just tragicness, but then I think the second worst division is the AFC South. I mean, it kind of seems like that might be Justin's show so far. I'm sure y'all are upset that Justin, after having an easy division, Madden 20 gets an even easier division, as we said, in Madden 21, but, Justin, solid user. He's made the playoffs more often than not. Cam, he's able to compete most of the time, kind of a question mark on that. And then Chapter and Gamble. I'm not going to bully people, so I'm not even going to speak on them. But NFC East is the worst. AFC South, second worst in my opinion.
Yeah, I think NFC East is the worst for me. But I will say, though it's the worst, it's one of the more interesting ones to me because all of these guys in here feel like it could become like an any given Sunday division. I think off the top of my head, Kook is probably maybe the front runner, but Austin not far behind him, and Ryan can compete as well. So it's very interesting division to me. And I don't know. I mean AFC South, I would agree is maybe next, but I don't think the South's terrible. I know a lot of people like to poop on Cam, I guess, but I think Cam's a good user. Definitely an any given Sunday user. But I think those are the two that definitely stick out.
Yeah, most people I think in chat's going to agree with you. The NFC East, it looks like to be the cupcake division of Madden 21 so far. Cam says everyone can sleep on me, although he said it right before Cody had some nice things to say. So we'll see how this division turns out. But I 100% agree. NFC East and then AFC South are probably the cupcake divisions. But let's go ahead and flip it to the other side. Which division do you feel like, or divisions, are the absolute nightmare division? Connor, I feel like this is a pretty obvious one for everybody involved, but let's go ahead and start off with you, Connor.
The balance of power is out west in both conferences. To begin with the AFC West, I mean, you have three men who have won, three men who have won multiple Super Bowl titles during their time in the Bear League, and then Chase, who is at this point probably the most accomplished user to have not won a Super Bowl. I mean, it is absolutely stacked. I can't remember the last time, if Phil's even remotely locked in, and if Phil can even be like average, let's say, I can't remember the last time there was a division that was this stacked day one. I mean, Alex, Chase, Morty, Phil, that is a like murderer's row right there of users. I'm just glad I'm not in that division. I mean, no disrespect to you, Cody. You're as good as any of those users I mentioned, but, I'm kind of glad I have Jesse and Lucky Chew there instead of, Morty, Chase, and Alex, per se. And then going to the NFC, I mean, that's maybe not quite not quite as many rings as the AFC West, but just as many playoff contenders and potential Super Bowl contenders. Obviously, Ben, one of the very best users in Madden 20 with the 49ers, he'll look to get that going. Lucky, consistent playoff contender despite being in a brutal division last year, and which he finds himself in again this year. King, probably, I mean, he has the least pedigree maybe of any of these users, although he has made a Super Bowl before, even though, maybe a bit flukish, but he still has made one, so he definitely has that capability. And then, of course, Cloud. We have not seen peak Cloud for a while, but even current Cloud, still very solid. So obviously the AFC West and the NFC West. And I actually don't know what I would pick between those two. Probably the AFC West if I had to choose, but it's close, and I think those are the two clear best divisions.
Yeah. But that was the question, right? Sorry, I had to step away from it. It was one of the best divisions, right?
Best divisions, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's AFC West for sure. That's that's crazy. All of those guys are very thankful that it is now a 7-team playoff, because it is very likely in the entire AFC is probably bummed, I guess, in some ways, because you could very likely see literally the AFC West having 4 playoff teams every playoff, which is crazy, and means for the rest of the AFC divisions, like, how important it is to win your division or get second, because that's only one other spot then if all 3 of them get in, is that everybody?
Or are you saying all 3 get in as wild card
yes.
contenders? That's it then. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So that, to me, that makes the entire AFC just absolutely bananas, because as strong as that division is, it really makes the playoff race and the division races for the other AFC teams very interesting. And then, I'd say, I think I'd agree in terms of talent across the board. Yeah, NFC West is, the one that sticks out for sure. Obviously, it's got 2 former Super Bowl winners, and Lucky, who, as you stated, Connor, has proven that he could beat Ben. King, when he's locked in and running the ball well and his defense is playing well, has proven that he can be a very difficult guy to beat, because he just absolutely controls the clock against you and just makes you kind of panic because time is just slipping from your fingers as he just pounds the rock down your throat. And so NFC West and AFC West for sure look to be the best for the respective conferences.
I would also give a real quick before we move on. I would also give honorable mention to NFC North, like especially if Fern's able to continue the levels of success. If Slander's locked in. I mean, obviously Mike's the clear fourth place there, even though I am of course also Team Mike. But CMass, Slander, Fern, that's a very solid 1, 2, 3 there, and I would give not quite at that NFC West level, but I would definitely give honorable mention to the NFC North. Give them some recognition.
Appreciate it. And as people are saying, based on the places that they were picked, and nobody wanted to be in the NFC North with the 24th, 26th, 29th, and 31st picks.
Untouchable there.
Yeah, nobody wanted them, but I'm okay to be there. But let's go ahead and we're going to move to more of a lightning round style. We'll go ahead and give me a one word or one sentence answer because I committed to a 2-hour show and we're right on the fringe of that.
Yeah.
We are going to go with the team that you thought would go a lot higher that dropped. Start off with Connor. Who do you think should have gone higher team-wise?
Chiefs, Chargers, Bears. The Chiefs went 12th. The Chargers went 18th. Bears went 29th. I think all of them got disrespected.
Cody?
I would go with Chiefs and Chargers. Sorry, I'm glancing at all of them.
No, you're good. Good answer.
Yeah, I think Chiefs and Chargers. The rest feel reasonable.
I would think even though they went 6 overall, I'm kind of shocked that the Ravens fell to 6.
That's fair.
But I agree with all those other picks. Team that you thought went way too high, Connor.
Okay, so we can all say the Patriots went too high, but I get it. Austin's a Patriots fan. I get why he chose them. I think the main one that really surprises me, and I get why Phil did this, but the Broncos at 4. I mean, he could have had such better rosters than that on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's not like the Broncos are terrible or anything. I don't mean to insinuate that at all, but I mean, he at the 4 spot, you have so many options, so many good teams still available, and I get wanting to run it back in Denver, but especially in that division, now that we have the benefit of hindsight, you got to make it easier on yourself, Phil. I don't know.
Yeah, Broncos at 4 seems like he did himself a bit of a disjustice. Just because, like Connor said, there's so many more teams that you could pick there that are gonna put you in a better situation.
Yeah, and it was a typo, but people are bringing it up that the Chargers, it says 8 on the screen, but it was actually 18th that they were selected. And that'd be my pick. The fact that they fell to 18 is shocking to me. Let's go ahead and move on. We're going to pick division winners quickly, so you just give me one name as we go through the divisions, and it will be Connor first, then Cody every time. NFC East.
Austin by a hair.
I'm going to go Kook.
I'm going to go with Taint. NFC North.
If Slander's locked in, then Slander. If not, then CMass.
I would agree with.
Careful, I'm about to boo both of you.
Give me Fern.
Ouch, what the? What? What the? All right, well, no respect. All right, NFC South.
Dan by a landslide.
Yeah, Dan.
NFC West.
Ben. I tried to overthink it there, but I think Ben, best combination of team and user.
Somebody, I'll keep this real quick, but somebody I think it was Chase pointed it out that typically it feels like Ben takes a couple seasons to figure things out. So I'm gonna say Cloud.
That's a good guess, yeah.
AFC East.
Kind of. I mean, not to compare Austin to Slander because that's disrespectful to Austin, but kind of depends on whether Austin's fully locked in. If he is, then I guess I would say Austin, but if not, then clearly Ocho.
Austin.
AFC North.
Cody.
Myself.
AFC South.
Okay.
Hey, mate.
You want that smoke, don't you?
Neither of you picked me, so it's fine. AFC South.
Justin. I'm not going to overthink this.
Sorry, what was that?
AFC South.
Oh, sorry, next one. Give me Justin.
And then finally, AFC West.
I mean, this is the hardest one of all. I mean, I called Alex the Super Bowl contender. I will go with Alex here, I think. But it's going to be real close.
Yeah, give me Alex.
All right. And then one last question. The way too early Super Bowl prediction. I just need the two teams to represent each conference. You don't have to necessarily pick a winner, but feel free to do so. Connor?
I mean, y'all should be quaking in your boots right now. You do not want me to predict you. I am going to pick Alex's Kansas City Chiefs versus, I have to give respect to Dan's New Orleans Saints. I mean, I don't know who's going to win that game. let's go with Dan. I mean, the man's had so much Super Bowl success recently. I'll go with Dan winning in a close one over Alex.
I'm gonna shock the world a little bit here. I'm gonna go Dan versus Austin, with Austin winning it.
All right.
Austin Patriots also?
Yep.
That would shock the world. All right. That's going to close out our show for the team reveal. We're going to get closing thoughts here, though. Feel free to take a little, because we cut a lot of time there. Go ahead.
I'm going to go first, Connor, because I got to pop out. My thoughts are the AFC is actually absolutely bananas. Like I said, you could have 4 playoff teams coming from the AFC West, which means, and I kind of said this before, that the other divisions, it is so crucial. Those division games are so crucial. Well, really, every game's so crucial. You got to win your division in the AFC, because it is very likely that you will have 4 playoff teams coming out of one division, which is literally bananas. And then the NFC, I think AFC has a slight edge in talent, I'd say, but the NFC is no slouch. I mean, it's tight, and I'm really excited for this cycle. I think everything other than the AFC West shaped out really nice. I mean, obviously AFC West and NFC East kind of where things got a little unbalanced, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be really fun. I'm really excited, and I love you guys, and thanks for letting me be here. And see you later.
Love you too, Cody. I guess I'll give my thoughts real quick. I'm going to make a distinction here, which is I think the NFC has more playoff contenders, but I think the AFC clearly has more Super Bowl contenders. I do I don't want to sleep on the depth that the NFC has. I mean, really the entire NFC West can make a run. Obviously, Dan, Super Bowl favorite most years. Wozzy's decent, Steele's decent. Most of the NFC North. I mean, we will ignore the other division, but it's it's not a lack of depth necessarily, the NFC, but there is that lack, I think, other than potentially Dan and Ben, there is that lack of clear Super Bowl favorite quality, and I think that's where the AFC wins at. I think the AFC has more truly elite users, and I'm glad I got the division I did. I mean, now that Cody's gone, I'm very scared of him. I think he's going to win the division almost every year, to be honest with you. I'm not one to mince words here, but it's not the worst case scenario for me. I would rather be in a division with him than Chase or Alex or Ben, for example. So not the worst, or Dan, excuse me, not Ben. So not the worst thing in the world. But I'm just excited to get going. Madden 21, I'm hoping is going to be the best cycle in Better League history. And CMass, I'm excited for you to continue to be a part of it.
Yeah, this is where I announced my retirement. No, I'm kidding. Very excited for the next cycle, and I just want to say again, big shout out to Mr. Dan for putting together the lottery show this afternoon. Big shout out to Connor and Cody as my co-hosts today, and big shout out to the Better League and pretty much other people, because we had more people viewing the show than we had in the league. So thank you so much. We had consistently high 30s, low 40s, and at one point we were close enough to 50 viewers. That's the most viewers I ever had. I think having Madden 21 the title helped. But big shout out to everybody being in there. The subs that went out: Morty gifting sub, Cam gifting sub, Cody gifting subs, people that joined the crew. I am your dad, Rating King. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming in. Again, no spoilers. Please keep your the things in the chat. You've done a great job keeping everything in the Twitch chat. I really appreciate it. There's a couple guys that specifically asked to have us DM this so they could experience it just like you guys did. So try not to spoil as best as you can. Hope you have a fantastic night. We're going to go ahead and close this one out here. Thank you so much again for watching.
Appreciate it.